upon us, some of us may be thinking, oh gosh, I didn't get as much achieved last year that I wanted to. I set out with these really good intentions and goals and such, and they just didn't really happen. Well, if you were looking to make time for the things that matter to you, then I would very much recommend this book. This is not going to be a giant ad, I promise. It's just that this is literally one of my favorite books of all time, so it needs to have a shout out. Make Time: How to Focus on What Matters Every Day by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky. We are going to be summarizing the kind of takeaway points from this book in my long-term collections journal. Now, I have done this before in my previous long-term collections journal, so you can see effectively this is kind of what it's going to end up looking like. It's just a bunch of little very actionable tactics that you can bring into your daily routines to help you get stuff done, making time for the things that matter. We are actually going to be doing a buddy read of this book, so if you like reading with other people, being able to discuss the books you're reading and such, I do very much invite you to join us. That one's linked in the description box. If you got here a little early, it might not be there yet. You might need to refresh the page, but you don't have to do that right now because we've got things to do in our journals. Let me know, what are you doing as we go along and do this? I'm obviously transferring information into my long-term collections journal. Are you working in your journal? Are you doing your laundry? Let me know. As I said, I love this book. I read it for book club because we had this as a book club book, and I left the book until like the last day before our book club meeting. So when I read this, I read it all in one day, very, very quickly, and I gave myself like no time to savor the information. Despite that, though, despite the fact that I read it all in one day and kind of blitzed through it, this book has just stuck with me. Like, constantly on my mind is like, how can I kind of bring these ideas into my daily routines to help me in terms of getting stuff done? In particular, getting things related to like my goals and other life areas done, not so much just work tasks. This is not about how to kind of like, I don't know, turn yourself into a productivity machine or anything like that. I think that it does a very good job of not promoting kind of like hustle culture or whatever. We don't want to overburden ourselves in the year of 2025. We want to have a good time. So this book and the points in it are going to be great for that. I am going to actually shuffle this one to the side because before I got this guy, this is one that I got for my birthday because I liked it so much I actually got a physical book of it. I don't really have a lot of physical books, so that's saying a lot. We're going to be looking at a digital copy of this one just because it's a little bit easier when you're trying to write in your journal, not having too much kind of in your space. But let's see. What, you were listening to an episode of the podcast and the cat is so used to hearing the voice when Mark talks, she looked at the screen like, who dat? I love that. I'm we tried to film ahead in terms of some of the podcast episodes over the break, because holiday period and stuff. You don't want to kind of like burden yourself with having to do extra work when you've also got like just busy life stuff going on. But we're not ahead anymore, so it's like, oh gosh, we actually have to record an episode that's supposed to be coming out new week. Julia, you have a star! Yay! I always love that it highlights them in green, so it's very easy for me to see them. Because otherwise I tend to miss these kind of things. But in terms of the book in general, the general structure is that it is broken down into kind of like 4 repeated steps that you do every day. So if we bring that up, you can see we have highlight, laser, reflect, and then there's also energize, and you kind of do those on repeat every day. But it has different kind of tips and tricks for each of those so that you can kind of, have a little bit of guidance in terms of how you pick your highlight, have a little bit of guidance in terms of how do we like laser down on things. Notably, the terms will make more sense if you read the book. Very much recommended you should go read the book. But we're going to go through and have a look at how these can kind of be applied. So notably, we have my highlights through here. We're not going to read through my highlights. We really just want to go and have a look at the tactics. So here are the highlight tactics, the ones for choosing your highlight. So we have writing it down, groundhog it, or do yesterday's again. Stack rank your life, which obviously they've given like, specific terms to each of these. Reading each of the sections is going to help a little bit in terms of what those mean. Batch the little stuff, the might do list, the burner list, and run a personal sprint. Now, when I wrote down my ones in my journal last time, you can see that I did number them. So we've got number 1, number 2, number 4, number 7, because I was only writing down ones that I thought were going to be most beneficial to me, but that also is, beneficial in a particular kind of like season of your life. So I'm considering doing all of them. Now, do I have enough space to do that? If we have a look at the header section here, I've got 3 lines of header on this one, and I've got technically 3 lines of header on this one, but then I would put the first thing on the very next line. This one went down another line, so maybe I'll have enough space for that. I'm also not going to be doing the boxes around each of the different things, mainly because I've got a border around the entire page. So in terms of the structure I'm using, it might be a little bit easier to fit more into here. I could also probably get a little bit more streamlined with my wording, so that might help as well. But our first one, write it down. What a great tip. Some of these I will just be kind of taking my wording from the last one to help me out, but anytime I get to a number that I haven't done, we're going to go back in and have a look at the stuff that's written in the book so I can figure out some wording for that that might make a little bit more sense. But if you happen to read Spanish, it's on KU. Oh, nice. Well, I personally don't, but I also already have the book, so I'll be fine. Oh, Sandy's in green too. Yay! Such a pleasure to have you with us. So in terms of writing them down, previously I wrote down the header in color, then I wrote down the tactic in black, and then wrote down a description of the tactic in gray. While I do like that structure, I don't really want to use gray in this journal because if I use gray here, then I'm going to feel inclined to use gray in other places and want to try and keep things simple for myself. So what I might do is write down the header in blue, put the number in a dot of blue, and then just write down the rest of the text in black. Might make my life a little bit easier. I'm not too sure about these general headers though, because that makes me feel like I should be writing those down in a different color. But we'll just put it in all caps. It's all good. So in terms of writing in my journal, I'm going to write on an angle because it's just more comfortable for me. But we'll talk about these as we go through. As said, this is one of my favorite books. I got a lot out of it, despite the fact that I decided to read it very, very quickly. Before we put pen to paper, I am going to go and do a pencil line for myself so that I know where the middle point is, because I want to still write these in 2 columns. I like the structure of that. So pencil first. Keeping our page safe. We don't want to end up with a whole bunch of mess. Let me just get this pencil out here. And in terms of the halfway point, I have a border on the page here, so I don't want to write in that space. So I'm going to probably go across by, if you're the border, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a buffer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfection. So now as I have my kind of rough guidelines, I know where I'm allowed, quote, quote, allowed to write. Let's see. Is this your long-term journal you're updating? Yes. So this is the old long-term collections journal. This is the new long-term collections journal. So it just gives me an opportunity to refresh my mind on these points and also write down all of the ones that I didn't end up including in the first one. Oh, and the audiobook is on Everand. I can't say or think about Everand without thinking about Pepperan, because it's like Everand, and I'm like, I haven't even watched Pepperan. I don't even know that show. Not really, but it makes me think of it. So our first selection of things, as said, is choose your highlight. Choose your highlight. So the general idea with the highlight is supposed to be, what is that thing that you kind of get to the end of the day, and if you're sitting at the dinner table with someone, somebody asks you like, oh, like, what was the standout for today? Like, what was your highlight of the day, kind of a thing. And for a lot of us, we would sit there going like, I know I did some stuff, I guess, maybe. Well, this gives you something to actually say, hey, yeah, I did XYZ, or I worked on ABC, or anything like that. Yay, Jake is in grade 2. Jake is with us. Such a pleasure to have you with us. So I have often found, like, it is a common problem for me, getting to the end of the day just being like, what did I even accomplish? So these tactics are all supposed to kind of help us remember that thing that is supposed to be pulling our focus. They don't necessarily have to be work related. Like, sometimes my highlight of the day is have a good time with my friends, or connect with my family, or something like that. Oftentimes it is work related, especially during the general work week. But the first tactic we have, number 1, is to write it down. Write it down. Some of these tactics realistically don't need a lot of an elaboration, but because I like everything to be matchy, samey, I want to put that in as well. So this one I've just said add highlight to the task list and use a signifier. Yep, that is what I do every single day. Add the highlight to my task list using a signifier. Signifier. I feel like I have a lot more space to write by not putting things in boxes. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Technically speaking, the horizontal writing space should be the same, but because I've done an indent here and I'm not doing an indent here, that's probably also changing up the amount of space I have. So I have hopes for being able to fit everything in here. We'll put down a number 1 in that bullet. That nice blue circle that we have. Oh, setting up your first reading journal. That's exciting. I have very much been enjoying my reading journal for this year. I haven't obviously done a lot in it so far, but I have at least brought over the information from last year and gotten it kind of, initially set up. I'm not too sure how I want to tackle doing the kind of like everyday filling in, mainly because this year I wanted to do those monthly videos that kind of, I don't know, summarize what I've been reading and things like that. I think that'd be kind of an interesting video to explore, but I'm not too sure how to film that type of video because often I would just, go in every 3 days or so and go and fill stuff in, but not so much anymore because it needs to be filmed now, so it's a little bit different. Oh, we have another green highlight. Yes, Corkspa. That's how I pronounce it, but that might not be right. But yay, part of the team with a capital T. Team with a capital T. So write it down as number 1. Number 2 is groundhog it, which is doing yesterday's task again. This could be because you didn't finish it. This could be because, it's just something that needs a daily repeat. It's just an easy way to pick your highlight because all of this is about like choosing your highlight. So groundhog it. Hog it. I do wonder with references about this because if you're unfamiliar, this is probably a reference from the movie Groundhog Day, where somebody gets stuck in a time loop living the same day over and over again. I mean, it's not much of a spoiler, it's kind of the whole premise of the movie. But there will be a point where references like this just don't click with people, like they don't know about them anymore. So I mean, right now, we still kind of get it, but at some point, possibly not. So, as it says here, is that you can repeat your task to build momentum, make it a habit, or finish something off. There we go. Move that one out of the way. So, repeat the highlight to build momentum. I'm going to write build a habit first because it'll fit nicer with this amount of space. Build momentum. Making sure we spell build correctly. Oftentimes, if I stuff up a letter in this kind of section of writing, I won't go and fix it, mainly because I kind of know what the word meant to say. It doesn't really bother me, but there are some letters that if you stuff up and catch it early enough, you can fix it. So like right then, I did an L instead of an I. I'm like, well, I'll just make it an I with serifs, so drawing the top and the bottom bar on them. So build momentum. Or finish it off. Finish him. Nice. So, groundhog it for me is usually when I'm repeating something, it's because it's the same type of work that just happens again and again and again. So it's not really a way to necessarily build a habit or a routine or anything like that. It's more so just like the work never ends, so it's constantly the highlight. So I guess then the question is it the highlight, or should I be making something else my highlight? It's nice to have these kind of bright moments. So, as said, I didn't go and fill in every single one when we did this one here, which means that there are some that I haven't included, and I'm thinking that I might try to include them. I might end up needing a tip in or something like that, but that's okay. So we're going to do number 3, but that means that we need to go and consult the book. So we'll jump back over to here. Excellent. So number 1 was writing it down. So yeah, if you write things down, you're more likely to have them happen. It's just the way it works. So groundhog it, so repeating it for a second chance to build momentum, to keep it a habit and all of that kind of thing. Keep the good times rolling. I like that. So the third one is stack rank your life. So if you're feeling stuck choosing a highlight, or if you're feeling a conflict between competing priorities in your life, try this recipe for ranking your big priorities. Ah, okay, excellent. So I like that they have an ingredients list for this. That's kind of fun. So a piece of paper and a pen. So you write a list of all of the things that matter. You choose the one most important thing, and then consider what's most meaningful to you. Like, this is effectively how you would choose the most important thing. And then choose the second, third, fourth, and fifth most important things, rewrite it in terms of priority, and then draw a circle around number 1. So it's effectively just like pick out the number 1 priority, I suppose. And then you can use this list to keep choosing your highlights. So if you keep it around, you can keep using it. Alrighty, okay. So we need to find a nice abridged way to write this, because I don't want to write too much in here. I like to keep it quite snippy, like small snippets kind of a thing. Not snippy like it's getting persnickety up in my business or anything like that. So this one was stack rank your life. Stack rank your life. There we go. You're trying to get to the community, but it keeps on saying the invite link is invalid. That one's a little bit strange. I have found that some people have found difficulty with it, but it technically never expires, so I'm not too sure why it does that. We'll see if we can find you a different link. What other people have sometimes done is just open it on a different browser to kind of like trick the system into letting them in. So that might be something that you can try. But we'll see if we can find you a new link that might help. Might work out a little bit better. We'll just shove that one through the chat. There we go. So we have stack ranking your life, already written that one in. We can write in that that is number 3. So this is list your priorities for life. Rank them. We're going to be able to put that there. Nope, it needs to go on the next line. Rank them. And start at the top, I suppose. Start at number 1. Done. There we go. So I typically haven't included this one because I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, but I would usually not gravitate towards that tactic. When I was filling in my original journal with these kind of points, I just went through and picked out the ones that I thought would have the most impact, or I'd be most aggressive, likely to use. Whereas, you know, the ones that I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like okay, and it didn't necessarily resonate as much, I just didn't include them. But I do like the idea of this being a full reference, so I'm gonna keep going with it. Number 4, batch the little stuff. Batch the little stuff. This is one that I do definitely use, but I don't often find myself considering it as a first option, if that kind of makes sense. Excellent. I'm glad that that worked. So number 4, batch the little stuff. This is kind of what it sounds like. So it's taking a lot of smaller items and then just combining them together as a highlight for the day. The general idea that they have is that your highlight is something that you should be quote, hopefully want to be working on for like 60 to 90 minutes or something like that in your day. Notably, not everybody has a full block of 60 to 90 minutes in their day to just dedicate to one thing that's outside of the stuff that they already do, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen all at once. You can find like a little sprinkling of it throughout your day. Amy, so glad to have you with us. I really wish, also, just as a complete side note, that it told me who was new versus my membership renewed because it doesn't necessarily tell me this, and I'm not very good at remembering people's usernames. So I'm just like, oh, it's so glad, so glad that you're new to the team. And they're like, I was already part of the team. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, call you out like that. But that's the little stuff. Combine a list of a smaller tasks. That was English. Combine. It's okay, I'll write it down correctly. Combine a list of smaller tasks go into one list to tackle. Thanks, past Jess. Such great wording. But then I don't have the next one, so one list to tackle. We're going to have to go and do a snoop. So after number 4, I went to number 7, so we go to that. You're horrible with names and have poor recall as well. I'm glad that I'm not alone with this because, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And it's one of those things. I don't want people to feel like undervalued or anything like that. It's not that I don't value having people as part of the team. It's just that I genuinely cannot remember all of the usernames that people use for it, because I do try and refer to people by their quote quote actual name wherever possible. Just personal connection type thing. But yeah, it makes it a little bit tricky when the username is not the same as that. So going to our list, we have number 5 is the might do list. So I'm gonna write that one down for the sake of completeness. So we have the might do list. Do they use a dash? They do. They do use a dash. The might do list. So my solution to the to-do list problem is to separate the decision about what to do from the act of doing it. Call my approach the might do list. It's exactly what it sounds like, a list of things you might do. Projects sit on your might do list until you make them your highlight and schedule them onto your calendar. Here's how the pieces fit together. So we have the might do list, then this is all the stuff we could do. We pull out the highlight, what matters the most, and then we shove it into the calendar to make a plan for it. Also, as we go through, there are 2 authors. We've got Jay-Z, John Zeratsky, and we have J.K., Jake Knapp, who are the 2 authors of the book, and they kind of give their own personal takes on it. It's quite interesting because obviously they're different people with different situations, different priorities and stuff, and you can see how they either do or don't use the tactics and how they apply them. And I also just like that they have their little cartoon faces. I just think it's cute. So let's see. You're taking an important task off your might-do list, make it your daily highlight, put it onto your calendar. You made a thoughtful decision about how to spend your time, and you can pour your energy into the task at hand. That's quite nice. Yeah, might-do list can help you avoid the to-do list treadmill. Very fair. So how do we write this down? Well, we can probably read the stuff about how it works. Before a day of boat work, we would sit down with our might-do list and talk about everything we could do. We use the same 3 highlight criteria: urgency, satisfaction, and joy, to select the work that was important to do today. And we put it on the calendar using our best guess at the time required. When the specified time rolled around, we'd show up at our boat, tools and coffee in hand, with a plan for the day. This helps us stay intentional and focused and allowed us to finish the day with a deep sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. Alrighty. So in terms of this one, the might-do list, we have what you could do and pulling off the could-dos into a highlight into the calendar. So pull your highlight from a list of... I'm going to remember where this divider is. I'm going to put some more pencil lines for myself so that then I have some guides, because I'm starting to not use my space very well. Ma'am, what is she doing? So, pull your highlight from a list of potential projects. And then I'm just going to put down pre-setup. Set up. Yeah. Okay. I always get confused as to whether it should be set up, 1 word, or set up, 2 words. But we're good. So effectively, like they said in the book, You start with a list of potential ideas of things that could be your highlight projects that you could be working on. And then when it comes to selecting the highlight, you just pick one of the ones on there so that you know that you selected something with intention and you're pouring your energy into that intentionally. That's kind of nice. So, as said, it's probably not one that I will commonly use, thus, I didn't put it in my original list, but it's good to have a full list because there might come a time in my life where that is going to be more helpful. And given that this is my long-term collections journal, I don't necessarily want to assume that I know what future Jess is going to need, you know? So, number 6, which we don't have on here, rather on here. We also don't have it on here yet, notably, but this one went from 4 to 7. We're doing number 6. So we need to go back to the books. Well, one book. And that one is the burner list. This one is taken from Jake. So we have Jake's little face here with his glasses. So love the idea of Jay-Z's Might Do framework, but I need something more detailed. Very fair. So this is how he makes his one. 1, divide a sheet of paper into 2 columns. Put your most important project on the front burner. I know that there's a picture here. Fabulous. We love a picture. We love a diagram, especially when people have trouble, I don't know, 1, people have trouble describing the way something looks, and 2, people have trouble visualizing the way something looks, so this can be quite useful. I do appreciate pictures, and you don't really get this in the audiobook, which, you know, I do also love audiobooks, but I do also love a picture. So we've got the top left-hand corner, write the name of your most important project and underline it. Okay. Front burner, back burner, the counter space, and the kitchen sink. Interesting. So this has effectively divided it into 4 separate sections, what I would consider 4 separate sections. So we divide the page in half. I would argue that you could probably divide it into quarters, but he probably hasn't done that, so then you have extra space, I suppose. You have as much space as you need to, rather than kind of sectioning off what you're going to have where. But flipping back, divide the sheet, put your most important project on the front burner, that is the top. Leave some counter space, put your second most important project on the back burner. Okay, first most important is in the front, second most important is in the back, and then everything else is the kitchen sink. Okay, that makes sense. So, how do we capture this information in just a few sentences? So, I'm going to start by writing down the header, because that's usually a good place to start. This was called the burner list. Burner list. So we start with, I don't really want to list out all of the steps because I do want this to be very small. So we're just going to be like, divide page into most and second most important, which I'm just going to write IMP because I know what that means. Important projects. There was the kitchen sink, which is the miscellaneous, and then the counter space is reserved for expanding on your front border project. Okay, that makes sense. So, misc tasks and extra space. The thing with this is that it is just supposed to be a little snippet for myself, so I've got the idea of it. But I can always go back to the book and refer to the original text if I need more information. So this is going to be sufficient for now. I probably won't use this structure, mainly because I do my daily logs in a very specific way that works for me. But I can understand people who do have a lot of kind of like set project work that requires this kind of structure. They would probably benefit from it. Not my kind of party, but it might be somebody's kind of party. Also, reminder, we're half of an hour in right now. Tink, make sure that you're drinking. I mean, you know, hydrating is the best kind of drinking, question mark, but you make your own choices. I've been again endeavoring to drink more water in the form of water. So today I am drinking water instead of a Coke Zero. I know, like, growth. Who is she? She'll probably get a Coke Zero with lunch. But anyway, so that's number 6. We also have number 7. Run a personal sprint. I am. Does wine count? Sure. You are your own person. You make your own choices. Pour one out for me. It's currently 9:30 in the morning on a Monday for me, so I'm like, should I be drinking wine right now? Maybe not, but you know, if it's the weekend where you are, or if it's a Monday morning and it feels appropriate for the time and place, go forth. So run a personal sprint. Run a personal sprint. And this is actually one of the books that I was tempted to read this month. I'm pretty sure I put it in my reading journal as a potential that I wanted to work on. So one of the things that I have been doing is selecting, from my 25 and 25, what do I want to read this month? For the year of Goober, what do I possibly want to read? I don't necessarily know if this is going to happen, but I was thinking maybe it could. I know this one will happen, because if it doesn't happen, then Monica will yell at me. This one I might switch out for something else, because this is more just like a, little pile of possibilities, similar to the actual pile of possibilities that I have here. But I've already read that one for this month, finished that one yesterday, and I'm currently doing a buddy read of Fourth Wing so that we can prepare for Onyx Storm. But Sprint, this one, Sprint by Jake Knapp. I'm hoping to read that because I really loved Make Time, so hopefully other books by the same authors should be pretty alright as well. Yay, Julia! So glad to have you with us as part of the team with a capital T. Also, I love your kitties having a cuddle. It's a really cute picture. Oh, happy birthday, Cheryl. I probably totally missed the fact that it's Cheryl's birthday. There we go. Excellent. 8:30 p.m. here. It's my birthday, so you're drinking wine. Very fair. Happy birthday to Cheryl. That's very good way to spend the time on your birthday, I reckon. So running a personal sprint, I'm just going to probably pull what I've said here. So select a series of related highlights, run over several days. I like that. Select a series of highlights and run them over. Several is one of those words that I always overthink when it comes to writing it, because I'm like, several. Spelling and Jess aren't the best of friends, but we try to get along where we can. So, several days, that is number 7, whoopah, which brings us to the end of the Choose Your Highlight section, but we do have more sections to come, notably. So, we go and have a look at the little summary. Our next one that we have is make time for your highlight. So how do you make sure that your highlight actually gets done? It's all good and well to pick out something that we want to work on, but given the fact that the book is called Make Time, it kind of made sense that something like this was coming. How do we make time for your highlight? How do we make sure that it actually happens? Now, we have 8 through 16 on that list. On my one, I have got 8, 9, 10, no 11, so we'll need to put that one in. 12, 13, no 14 or 15, 16. I've got 17, 18, 19, and 20. So only 3 extra ones to add in. Wait a second. 17, 18, 19, and 20. It doesn't go to 20. It only goes to 16. I've gone and confused myself. I was like, oh yeah, it goes to 20. It doesn't go to 20. That's a completely different section. It has a completely different header. Oy vey. So my one is notably going to run across into the next column, because you can see my choose your highlight section here was this big. My choose your highlight section here is a decent bit bigger, which is fine. I've just kind of made my peace with the fact that it's going to run into another column, is what it is, kind of a thing. But I also note that when I did this layout the first time, I had this much free space and I had this header on this page here, which I'm not going to do again. So should be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So let's see. First one is, we have number 8, schedule your highlight, but I need to write down make time for your highlight first. So make time for your highlight. Perfection. And we can put in poink. Number 8 is schedule your highlight. Which, okay, so when it comes to self-help books, productivity books, that kind of a thing, I feel like, and I am also guilty of this, so don't think I'm, calling people out while being all like holier than thou or anything. We have this kind of like tendency possibly to read a piece of advice and be like, oh yeah, I already knew that. I'm like, okay, cool, but have you applied it? Like, have you positively and actively tried that advice? Because we kind of have like this like familiarity bias. So people tell us like if you put things on your calendar, it's more likely to get done. You're like, yeah, I know that. It's like, okay, cool. But like if you do it and do it consistently, then oftentimes more stuff will get done. I need to keep telling myself this, and this is why one of the habits that I'm kind of keeping tabs on this week, or one of the routines that I'm tracking this week, is scheduling my calendar. Because if I put things on my calendar, I am more likely to hold myself to the time that I give myself for those things, which means that I'm more focused in the moment, and thus things take less time, which gives me more time for other stuff. Does that kind of make sense? If I don't put things in my calendar, let's say for filming a video, if I'm filming a video and I haven't put it on my calendar, then it will take probably up to like 40% or more time than it could have taken if I had scheduled a set block of time and said, okay, this is your hour, this is when you get to film, versus me not scheduling that amount of time and it blowing out to like an hour and a half or 2 hours just for the filming step or something like that. So even though I know this, I obviously know it. I wrote it down. I don't do it consistently. And if I did it more consistently, then I would have more success in terms of getting my work done in a timely manner. Okay? So let me know if you can relate. Jenna's already like yelling at me, don't call me out, Jess. Don't do this. I say it with so much love, though. I say it with so much love. So schedule your highlights, select the amount of time needed, and add that block to your calendar. So select the amount of time needed and add that block to your calendar. And it's also funny because in the fact that I have used this tactic before, and it's one that I found worked, why don't I use it more consistently? It kind of, do I think it takes too much effort? Because like really it doesn't. You just highlight a section on your calendar, type in the thing you want to do, and then when the time comes, you do it. Like when you think about it like that, you're like, oh, that's kind of silly. Like why do I not use this more? But I don't know. We build these things up in our head to be more of an effort than they actually are? Question mark. Are you allowed to post an invite link to your main Discord for GlowChan? I can't change who can send invite links from this end right this second, but I can find a link for what was it, GlowChan? Yeah. So if you want to join our Discord community, this is the link that I'm posting right now. This is not for the reading community. This is for our journaling community. If you want to come over and join us, we're a group of great people. I like to think so. I might be slightly biased, but I appreciate that we do have like our international and diverse community over there who all just like enjoy journaling, enjoy planning, enjoy creativity and such, and can chat about different things related to that. It's a nice space to be in. Again, I'm very biased, but it comes with the territory, I think. So number 9, we have block your calendar. Block your calendar. Oh, good. You're very good at planning things and time blocks, but not doing it. Yeah, I have found that if I don't actively have my calendar open, I often don't, uh I don't remember the time blocks that I've set for myself. It's an odd thing. I do remember them, but I don't honor them if I don't have it right in front of my face, if that kinda makes sense. So, I'm almost tempted to almost tempted, I don't know if it's actually gonna happen, almost tempted to make a print off of my week once I've scheduled it and just stick it on my wall at the start of the week and be like, "It's there. It's right there. You don't have to open another tab. It's right there." So, maybe I'll do that, but I do appreciate having it in a digital space so that you can change things, move things around, and all of that kinda stuff. In terms of the link for the book club, that one is linked in the description box. It is also further back in the chat, but, it's further back in the chat. It's ages ago, but it is linked in the description box. I think it's the second link. The first one is the Make Time book because it's quality and everybody should get it. Again, I'm a little biased because it's like one of my favorite books, but still. But the second link is to our Discord space for the reading community, which is where we host our book club as well. So, block your calendar. It says schedule your highlight first for when your energy and focus is highest. Alrighty, I want to actually go and have a look at this one because I think that it would be good to have a look at it again, just for the sake of having a cheeky gander. So this one, the header is on this page, but if you start with an empty calendar, you can schedule your highlight for the ideal time when your energy is highest and your focus is at its peak. But for most of us, starting the day with a blank calendar is about as likely as finding $1,000 bill on the sidewalk. Oh no! Let's see. So use daily do not schedule blocks to make room for your highlight. Alrighty, so this is notably for people who probably work in a kind of office situation where they have other people who can add things to their calendar and such. That isn't me, which is why I probably don't use this one as much as I could, or I don't think to use it as much as I could, but it could be useful. So, I mean, I'm still gonna write it down. I wrote it down last time as well, but yeah, that idea of schedule your highlight for the ideal time when your energy is highest and your focus is at its peak. I like the idea of that. Let's say your problem with time blocks is that if things get in the way of the time that I've set for tasks, the whole day feels off. Yeah, that is very fair. What I'm hoping to do at some stage in the not too distant future is set up a separate calendar, one that I can kind of overlay on top of my regular calendar as an ideal weekly schedule, which as somebody who picks how they spend their time, like I work for myself, obviously I'm in a bit of a different situation to most people, but I find that because I have that flexibility, my work bleeds into a lot of time spans where it realistically shouldn't be. Like, 11 p.m. sitting in bed, answering DMs and such. And it's like, no, you need to have some boundaries. You need to have some boundaries. I'm trying. I'm trying. But I can kind of relate to that idea of, if I do structure myself out a schedule for the day and then something happens to the first time block that either goes too long, usually it goes too long, or it doesn't happen or something like that. I'm just like, oh my God, everything else is ruined, which is why I typically find that I will only schedule my calendar in terms of fully structuring things out a day in advance, because I find it's a lot easier to know what is going to be on my plate and kind of predict things that might be coming up, if that kind of makes sense. I don't find it very I'm not very good at effectively sticking to any time blocks that I make too many days out in advance. Like if I'm sitting here on a Monday, which funnily enough I am, happy Monday, and trying to schedule out for Friday, there is a 75% chance that that plan is just going to go to the trash because it's not going to happen that way. Because I don't necessarily know what is going to happen in between those periods of time, which will influence what I can do or what I need to do on Friday. So I will usually just schedule it the day of, the morning of. But yes, let's see. Also, need to make sure I continue to drink my water, and you should too. Tink. I think that, yeah, the nice part about this book in particular, because it offers you so many little tactics and such stuff like this, just because one doesn't work for you doesn't mean the rest won't. It's not like a book just on time blocking kind of a thing, because I know that time blocking doesn't work for everybody. It could just be due to the nature of your job or due to the way your brain works or anything like that. Maybe blocking out sections of time does not work for you. Maybe you need to get to the top of the hour and decide, okay, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to work on this. That's cool. More power to you. But there are still ones that you can test out and try, and they might work in certain situations for your life, but not in others. For instance, if I want to tidy up my office, a great tactic for me is setting a 10-minute timer because now I'm in a race against the clock. If I set a 10-minute timer to do my editing, then it's really demotivating because editing just takes me very, very long. But if I use it for, office tidying, works really, really well. So it's effectively one of the things that they have here as part of their four-step process or whatnot. The last thing is reflect. So once you've picked out your tactics for the day, once you've tried them out for the day, you get to the end of the day and go, okay, did that actually work? Like, why did that work or why didn't it work? That kind of a thing. So it's nice that they kind of have honored the nuance of people's lives in this book. We were very spoiled with this book in terms of book club. It totally ruined every other self-help and productivity book for us since then, but it's just a great book. It's just a great book. So block your calendar, schedule your highlight for when energy and focus is at its highest. Schedule your highlight first for when energy and focus is highest. I said, okay, for a very long time, I have considered myself to not really be a quote morning person. I've decided to scrap that. That's not part of my identity anymore. I've just come to a decision that that's not how I'm going to identify myself anymore. Because I do find that even though I don't enjoy waking up early, like I don't enjoy getting up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or some people out there getting up at 4 a.m. Hell nah, not for me. But I do find that in terms of focusing on my work, I work the best from like 9:30 to 11:30ish. Like that 2-hour block is typically when I do my best work. I get the most done, I'm most focused, I don't feel like things are a slog. My least productive work time is usually from the hours of 3 to 4:30, like, that's usually kind of where I start to slump, and then I can kind of pick up and have a little bit more of a peak before dinner time and such. So if I'm trying to schedule my highlight, if I'm trying to schedule when I want to do the work that has the most kind of, like, potential for payoff, I should be mindful of when that kind of natural energy cycle is for myself. It's gonna be different for all people. Uh, I have always kind of considered myself to be more of a night owl. Click, click, you know? "Oh, I do my best work at night, and that's why I work in the evenings." I'm like, "No, it's because you have no boundaries. It's because you're not taking the time that you need for yourself." And even if it is a time of great, productivity or whatnot, let's go be productive on leisure. Let's do that instead. You just described my energy cycle. Yeah, twinning. Yeah, let me know. Do you guys know when your highest energy points are? Like, when do you find it like most easy to just be in the zone, get work done, be in the flow of things? For some of us, it's going to be really hard to identify those. But I'd be curious to know, like, how many people find that they're kind of like mid morning time is highest, or is it like quite early in the morning? Because I know that a lot of people do find that they can, before everybody else, before the world wakes up, type of a thing, they can get a lot done in that period of time. Before 8 a.m. Before 8 a.m., Jess is like a groggy mess, pulling herself into the shower, trying to resemble more of a person than a puddle, type of a thing. But she is going to scrap the identity of, quote, not a morning person because it doesn't serve her. All right. I'm very big on this idea of our identity boxes right now and whether the labels we give ourselves are actually aligned with what we want for ourselves. But that's a story for another day. Maybe we'll put it in the newsletter this week. So, after block your calendar, we have bulldoze your calendar. So once you've blocked it, we're all just gonna like shove everything into a box. So Let's see. Yeah, you definitely get a 3 o'clock slump too. We've got mid-morning and evening. Nice. Similar to that, the mid to late morning is best. Yeah, I personally find that one works well for me. 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Nice. Good to have some people who work well in the evenings. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So kind of like that midday range. Because yeah, we have these descriptors of like what are the morning lark or the night owl and the permanently exhausted pigeon, of course. I can't remember what the one for the middle of the day is, but there's a name for it. We're all birds now, supposedly. For me lately, it feels like no time is the zone time. Oh, yeah, no, that would definitely make it so that the zone time is hard to find. But we have number 10, bulldoze your calendar. Put that one in here. Yeah, part of your plan for this year is to stop the "not a morning person," quote, quote. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it. I know that's not what we're supposed to be talking about right now. We're supposed to be talking about bulldozing your calendar. But thinking a lot about the words and phrases, labels that I use to describe myself and whether they are aligned with what I want for myself. Mainly because, okay, so they did this study of a group of people, and I effectively asked them, are you going to vote in this election? Or, like, are you a voter? And people who decided to say, like, yes, I am a voter, versus the people who said, yes, I'm going to vote. The ones who described themselves like as the identity as a voter were more likely to vote compared to the ones who said, oh, yeah, I'm going to do the thing. So not to say that we should be kind of like, sitting here in our delusions or anything like that. Be like, oh, yeah, I'm a runner. I've never run in my life. Okay, I probably run somewhere, but I do not currently run. But rather than saying, oh, yeah, I am going to run versus I am a runner, you're more likely to do the running if you define yourself by the identity, if that kind of makes sense. But of course, this can work in the reverse for ourselves. So, are there identities that we're holding on to, or these kind of labels, descriptors, or whatnot that we put forward as like a I am this person? Is that actually going to be something that is beneficial? So, for me, like one of the identities that I held on to for a long time was the identity of someone who doesn't eat a lot of vegetables. I know that sounds really silly. Like, why would you want that identity? It was like this kind of like weird badge of honor, like, oh yeah, I don't eat a lot of vegetables and I'm not dead yet. I'm like, congratulations, but your life could just be so much better if you took care of yourself by nourishing yourself with the foods that are good for you. So how about we instead say, I do like vegetables. I'm just picky about how they're prepared. Like, it's fine. It can come with provisos, but we're gonna put that. Yeah, it's okay. I run my mouth. I don't run for the bus. I personally believe if the bus is leaving and I'm not on it, it wasn't meant to be. But again, is that an identity that I want to hold on to? I don't take the bus very often. I don't leave my house. Nobody lets me out. But yeah. So bulldoze your calendar. That is number 10. Put that one down here. Looking swell. So push things on your calendar to compact them in terms of time used and days used. That works well. Is there an actual picture of a bulldozer on this one? Because I want to see if there's a bulldozer picture. Oh, they didn't even put in a picture of a bulldozer. There were so many opportunities for that. Yeah. It does also note in the book, because how I said there are some books that don't deal well with nuance. Yeah, bulldozing is admittedly easier if you're the boss than it is if you're the intern. So there is the proviso there that like it's not going to work for everybody. Yeah, you saw that study was an interesting read. Yeah, I thought it was. I was just curious about it. Like, obviously, that was only one situation and such, but it does kind of speak volumes about how we have the power to change our behavior by identifying ourselves in different ways. Or how holding on to old identities or things that we kind of have previously done can kind of dictate our future action. Does that kind of make sense? Anyways, bulldoze your calendar. Push things on your calendar What does it say? So, yeah, so push things on your calendar to compact them. Make sure we get the. What's the word for when you. Intonation? I don't know what the word is. Inflection? Got to get the inflection right on compact. Yeah, compact, compact. Compact. Is intonation even a word? Intonation. Okay, so intonation is a word. I'm just confused. So compact then in terms of time and days used. Look at how well that fits. Love it when a full column comes together and days are used. Love it. Yeah. This year for me is to try to be less negative, or like negative stuff that comes out of my mouth in front of others. That's fair. Like, I've been thinking about it in terms of my goals, and are there any identity boxes that I can put myself in that do align well with my goals? So, for instance, if we think about the goal of work boundaries, right? So, like not working in the evenings or something like that, is there an identity that I can tie myself to that holds with what I want for myself? So it could just be like I'm a person with healthy work boundaries. Like if I tie myself to that identity, then I'm more likely to honor the fact that I'm trying to have these, periods of separation from my work time versus my personal time or whatnot. But anyway, so make time for your highlight. We've got 8, 9, and 10. We still need 11. 11 isn't on this page though, so we're going to have to go and have a snoop. Oh, we love it. We love looking back at the book and looking at Jess's highlights because my highlights are in here. So there'll be days and weeks where you feel so busy and overscheduled that you can't imagine how you'll ever make time for your highlight. Fair. This happens. Ask yourself, what can you cancel? Nice. Can you skip a meeting, push back a deadline, or ditch your plans with a friend? We know, this mindset sounds horrible. Even the New York Times bemoaned today's culture of last minute cancellation, calling this the golden age of bailing. You know what? We think bailing is fine, provided that you do something worthwhile instead. Of course, you can't skip out on everything all the time, but there's a middle ground between blindly serving your calendar and being an unreliable flake. I do think it's interesting, like the idea of flake it till you make it. That's kind of a funny way to describe it, but there is definitely power in saying no to things. I'm not very good at saying no to things in the moment, so sometimes that does mean saying no to things when we have an upcoming deadline. Never when it's like super important though. But possibly that's something that you can use to help you out. And I want a complete list. So honestly, you think your best work time isn't before the world wakes up, very fair, but the morning after everyone goes to sleep. Yeah, nah, nighttime even around 11 p.m. I have often found that I do a similar thing. But I also found that in going to bed late, it meant that I couldn't spend as much time with Vogel, and so it was kind of like that balancing act of, sure, this time is good for me to work, but I also wanna spend time with him, and he's gonna go to bed at 10:30, so if I wanna spend time with him, I need to spend time with him before he goes to bed, which usually includes me going to bed. So it's like, "Oh, yeah, we can kind of, like, talk about our day and all of that kinda stuff," but ding. It's tricky sometimes though when your natural time cycles don't align well with the other people in your lives. It can be difficult to find kind of like the time for both of you in a way. It's the kind of thing like I don't want to go to bed at 10:30 or whatnot and then finish talking to him and get out of bed and go back to work. Something like that. So it does mean that I have had to kind of jimmy my schedule around a little bit, but I'm not too sad about it. So number 11, not here, it's over there. Flake it till you make it. Scoot. I need to write things down right now. Let's see. Flake it till you make it. That works. You say no to too much. Nice. You need to say yes to more. Yeah, I do find that I do say yes to too many things, but I'm getting better at saying no to things. I used to pride myself on being the first person to RSVP as going to an event. Again, the weird things that we pride ourselves on. But I would be the person who was seemingly so connected to my phone and to Facebook that as soon as an invite to an event came in, I would be the first person to be like, "Yeah, I'm going." Nowadays, not so much. Nowadays, I do take the time to actually consider, like, what else do I have going on? Is this something I actually want to go to? Yada, yada, yada. Most of the time, I do want to go to it. Most of the time, I say yes to it. But giving myself a moment to pause, like, you don't have to be the person who's just like right there on the buzzer, like, bam, every single time. But flake it till you make it is say no to other less important time commitments to work on your highlight. Nice. I never like the idea of saying that time with friends is less important than the highlight, but it's it's not necessarily me flaking on plans with my friends to do work because, as said, your highlight doesn't have to be work related. Your highlight can be spend time with your friends. So maybe the commitment I'm saying no to is making a video or getting a video out on time. Oftentimes that's not the case. I do try to get my videos out on time, and I do successfully get them out on time most times. Like, what? I know, I'm trying to think of the last time I got a video out that wasn't on time, and I feel like that was 2023. I'm sure somebody will call me out and say that's wrong, but just having the opportunity or the flexibility to be able to say, like, "Hey, actually something else is more important right now." I think that it's good to note that that can be something that we build into our time. But you say yes to weddings and funerals, you have your priorities straight. Nice. I I would say that yes or no to those promptly. But again, I'm not necessarily going to be the person who gets my RSVP in like half a second after somebody sends an invite out anymore, which is probably a net positive thing. At least I think so for me. So number 12 we have is just say no. Oh, look, it's the hardest one. Just say no. And I think I am getting better at saying no. I previously, if we think about it in terms of the channel, right? So I get quite a few offers from people being like, "Oh, hey, if I send you this product, like you could review it on your channel," or "Oh, if I send you this supply or whatnot, then maybe you could share it with your subscribers," and stuff like that. And a while ago, admittedly, I felt very not like I had to, but more so like I was being silly if I didn't say yes to that opportunity. It's like, "Oh, well, I don't wanna be known as somebody who's, like, not agreeable or anything like that." But nowadays, channel growth, wider audience, people are like, "Oh, yeah, we wanna, like, get our product in front of more people or whatnot." I get a lot of offers that are just not that they don't make sense for the channel. It would be silly to say yes to that. So I have gotten a lot better at being a little bit more critical in terms of whether something is something that's worth sharing or if it's something I even want to share. Like, even if it is related to the channel, do I want to share it? Um, People offer like, "Oh yeah, hey, we'll send you our paint markers." And I'm like, "I don't use paint markers." Like, yes, other people use paint markers in their journals and such, but it would feel almost disingenuous for me to share them, kind of a thing, because I don't use them. That being said, I totally did take some paint markers from Artex last year and they were really good, but that's an aside. So, just say no. Be nice but honest. If you want the offer again later, say so. That, yeah, makes sense. It's the idea of also timing. Like sometimes people say like, "Hey, do you want to, get involved in XYZ of an opportunity?" Like, I would love to, but I can't do it right now. For instance, I got offered to be a host on a I don't want to tell you too much about it because I don't know if I'm actually supposed to tell people. Whatever. I got offered to be a host on this kind of like course type thing. It has a monthly host kind of a thing. So they offered at kind of like mid to end November. They're like, "Hey, do you want to be the host for December?" And I'm like, "I would love to be the host, but I can't do December. I'm doing Vlogmas and I've got Christmas and all of that other kind of stuff. Like, I'm at my capacity. I would love for you to offer it to me later if you want me to do it sometime in 2025. Let's make it work, but I can't do it right now." So be nice but honest. If you want the offer again later, say so. Be nice but honest. If you want the offer again, offer again later, I'll say. Say so. Nice. One of the things that I used to do, like when I first read this book and I was like, you know what, I actually kind of want to have an attempt to apply this to my life a little bit more. I started picking out some of these tactics that I would trial on a daily basis. I think I used to try and pick out 3 of them. And I would use those 3 to say, like, oh, yeah, like today I'm going to try by batching the little stuff. I'm going to schedule my highlight and I'm going to do, like, something else, whatever. Some of these you don't necessarily decide in advance to do. Like, you're not necessarily going to wake up in the morning like, I'm going to say no today. It's like, well, if you don't get any offers for things, then you're not really saying no to anything. So it would be like a waste of a pick, if that kind of makes sense. But because there are ones that you can pick, I do like the idea of experimenting with the ones that you can select from or select in advance, ones that you have the kind of like power to bring that into your kind of schedule or routine or whatnot, rather than the ones that are quite situationally based. Like, saying no, that is quite situationally based. It's not necessarily something you select in advance to do. Oh, wow. Let's see. What are you up to? We have number 1, bought this book for yourself this year. I love it. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I have. Number 2, your food pun calendar has flake it till you make it for January pun. Oh, that's exciting. It makes sense for a food pun. And then you joined Epic Goals today. Oh, that's so exciting. Yay. I'm glad to have you on board with it. I'm so excited. I mean, again, biased. Love Epic Goals, and I'm really excited for our first Epic Goals Club meeting that we have coming up, like tomorrow, to be able to like reconnect with people after the holiday break and be like, what are you guys working on this quarter? What are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve? And then getting things done together. It's always a good feeling. So 12 is just say no. 13 is design your day. So design your day. This is one that I do try to lean into because I do find it very powerful. Like, I am much more likely to get stuff done if I schedule my day out, but as said, only like the day of or the day before. You just went through module 0 to 2 today. Nice. Excellent progress. I hope that you're finding it like quite bite-sized and easy, like nice breakdown type thing, because I wanted to make it very digestible for people. Like hand-holdy, but not in a way that feels like I'm babying people, because I'm not setting up to make a goal course for babies. So mapping out your entire day onto your calendar, we can put that one in. I like this one. I should use this one more. Mapping out your entire day onto or into your calendar. I mean, I wrote onto. It's fine. Onto your calendar. last time I just wrote on, but I have more space. So I can afford the space that will be required of those 2 little extra letters type deal. Try to set up your life admin Excel sheet. Yeah, got it today, but struggling with the task logging. Has made changes to some of the tasks and projects and now getting them to show up. Yeah, that can be a little bit tricky. I found that throughout the first week of using my tracker, I actually changed some of my tasks, and even today I'm thinking about going and changing the categories that some of them in, um, just because I have currently got my sleep routines in vitality, which is more like physical health kind of things, but I'm thinking about putting them in mental health because although technically sleep is also for physical health, like it's technically related to both, I kind of want my physical health to be more about like hydration, nutrition, and exercise, and then have mental health be about sleep routines, stress, like stress management, and time off work, and that kind of a thing. So I'm thinking about literally just going back and changing it so that it's no longer vitality, it's spirit focused. But I can do that because it's all digital, so it's nice and easy to change. But if you go through and change them and logging them and you're finding they're not showing up, the first thing to probably check would be making sure that the categories that you've got are the same exact wording as you have on the skill areas tab. Otherwise, flick me an email, I'll help you out. So, number 13, design your day. Then the next one I have is number 16. So we're going to have to go back and have a look. We're going to have to look at the book, which is not upsetting to me even remotely. So let's go have a look at that. Scroll. So this is like I kind of mentioned before, sometimes they have how one of them uses it versus how the other uses it. And this is probably why I decided not to include it, because it says become a morning person. And Nelly Naysayer Jess is like, heck to the nah, I'm never going to be a morning person. You can't make me. I refuse to wake up before the hour of 8 o'clock or like whatever. And older, wiser Jess, or at least older Jess, is like, come on, bruh. Like, you could do it. You could wake up a little earlier if it meant getting your most important work for the day done in a timely manner. I believe in you. But anyway, so as said, sometimes they have these things called tactic battles, which is just an opportunity for like one person to show how they do theirs and the other person to show how they do theirs. So the last example we had of this was the might do versus burner list, because that's like a different way that each of them do it. And they're presented as 2 separate tactics that you can try, which is nice. So number 14, become a morning person. We'll write it down and we won't be Nelly naysayers because we can identify as a morning person even if we're still trying to build that for ourselves. So become a morning person. So what does JC have to say for themselves? So in 2012, I decided to become a morning person. It didn't come naturally. My whole life, I never wanted to wake up early. Yeah, no, that's very fair. I like this idea. I decided because it's okay. I know this is an aside, all right? I know this is not relevant, but there are so many ways, I've been thinking about this lately, so many ways that we could just like decide to radically change our lives. And it kind of it's a very curious point, right? Like, as an example that's a little bit crazy and out there and probably not going to be done by literally anybody watching right now, but you could decide today, you know what? I don't want to live in this house anymore. I'm going to sell up and go find somewhere else to live. Is it a good idea? I don't know. Maybe like real estate's very tumultuous where you are, but you could do it. Different idea, different example. You could decide today, you know what? I actually hate my job. I'm done. I really don't enjoy where I'm working. The people I work with are, lovely and stuff, but that's not actually a good enough reason to stay where I'm working. So you could decide, you know what? I'm going to go find a new job. I'm going to go and update my CV. I'm going to go put my name out there, look for different opportunities and do something else. Like but we don't often do that. Like, I'm not saying that we have to like radically change our life every single day. That sounds very stressful. We don't need that kind of stress. We want to have enjoyable lives. But it does it is a curious thing that there are those points in time where we could just change everything, and it probably has happened before. Like, if you think about it, thinking back to your life, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a one-day decision. It could be this kind of thing that, like, built up over a longer period of time until you decided, you know what, this needs to change. When was the last time that you had that kind of, like, moment? I'm using moment lightly here. It could have been a larger span of time that something just changed, and specifically from something that you decided to undertake. I'm not thinking about, like, a bus crashed through my house and then I had to move or something like that. You didn't really decide that, but I think that the last major change that I had was probably quitting teaching and doing this full time. Like, that didn't happen overnight. It was something that I obviously, like, built the channel up and, like, got it to a point where it effectively could become my sole thing that I was doing. But the actual decision to leave teaching, that one was like a kind of just very small kind of period of time. I think it was over the span of maybe like 2 or 3 weeks where I decided, you know what? Actually, I'm done. Actually, I'm finished with this. I'm going to go do something else. But anyways, just a curious point, because we're talking about the fact that he has now just decided to become a morning person. But so in 2012, he decided to become a morning person. How did you do it, Jake? Tell us all the things. I didn't actually highlight anything in here, but it does say start with light, coffee, and something to do. I think that that's a very good piece of advice, especially the something to do. We're not going to become morning people if there's no reason to wake up. Like, I have previously tried to be someone who wakes up a little bit earlier, and if I don't have something that I'm waking up for, I just won't get out of bed. And this is something that I'm hoping to bring more into my routines this year. But let's see. Slow coffee ritual helps keep me occupied during the low willpower period. I would otherwise check email, look at Twitter, both of which are likely to send me into a reactive vortex of unproductivity. I agree. I relate to that. You would love to have the courage to just do that, leave work and be your own boss. Yeah, it was a very it's like a scary thing, but it's also made easier when you tell yourself, like, I'm not an idiot. Like, right? Like, you're not an idiot. We're not dumb, right? I'm not gonna let myself get to the point where I can't support myself. So I can always just go back and teach again. Like, maybe not at the same place, because I don't necessarily want to, like, come back with my tail between my legs like, oh, I tried something and it didn't work out or anything. But you can always reverse it, like, there are certain decisions that we make that can be reversed. Like, moving out of your current home and moving into a new one, if your last home sells, like, you can't really go back there. That's a bit different. But if you move to another area or state or whatever, you could go back to the area or state that you came from. My parents did that. We moved to New Zealand because my dad got a job over here. He got a promotion and then got made redundant, but it's fine. So we moved our lives over to New Zealand, and then eventually my mum was just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to live here anymore. I want to go back to Australia. So they just moved right back to the same area they were living in before. And since then, they have decided, you know what? We actually want to be near our kids. So they moved all the way back again. Obviously, that comes with a lot of financial costs and all of that kind of stuff. So, like, their situation is different to a lot of us. But it goes to show that just because you make a choice and decide to change things doesn't mean you can't change things back. So that was kind of something that was helpful for me in my choice making, is that, like, yes, I'm deciding at this point to leave teaching, but that doesn't mean I can never be a teacher again. Like, if I go off and try this YouTube thing and it just doesn't work out for some reason, like maybe the YouTube algorithm changes, or maybe bullet journaling gets cancelled or something like that, I don't know, then I'm out of a job or whatever, I can always go back. Like, I have the skill set to find another job. I believe in myself in that way. I there are a lot of ways I don't believe in myself, and I should have a little bit more kind of like self-belief or whatnot, but the ability to find a job, I'm sure I can do it, even if it takes me a second to do it or a second to find something I want to do. But anyway, I believe in you too, by the way. You can do it. You can do the thing. So, number 14 wasn't on here because it's becoming a morning person. So this one, Mr. Jake, I think it was Jake. Maybe it was Mr. John. It was Mr. John. So John tells us to start with light coffee and something to do, and to design your nights before. So I'm effectively just going to be saying, make time for your highlight. By getting up earlier. I don't need the step-by-step play of how it happened. Getting up earlier. Because that's the long story short of it, I suppose. Journaling gets cancelled. Yeah, I know. It's not gonna happen, right? It's not gonna happen. But, if there came a point where I decided that this wasn't something I enjoyed anymore, maybe I just found, like, it wasn't something I wanted to do, I could always go back to teaching. Like, I still have the skill set of being a teacher, I suppose. And, I guess that kind of makes the decision to change things and do something different, a less scary one in a way. Like, it's still scary. Um, going from having a very set routine salary of like, oh yeah, every 2 weeks I get paid this amount. I know how much I have, and thus I can pay my bills and everything is fine, to one which is like, you get paid once a month from this person and once every 2 weeks from this person, and like, the different little bits and pieces that make up my income. And they're never going to be the same amount as each other. And it's all very much kind of like, changes with the wind kind of a thing. That is a little bit daunting. But again, I set myself up in such a way that it's like, if this doesn't work out, I'm not going to end up like on the street or anything like that. But that's because I decided to put the plans into place to be able to make the decision I wanted to make. Let's see. Become a morning person. Number 15. What's number 15? We're gonna go have a snoop. I'm gonna go look at the book. I like this one. Nighttime is highlight time. Good job, Jake. So previously, when I wrote these ones down, I would probably be inclined to just write that one down. It's like, oh yeah, this is when I would put my highlight. I'm not the kind of person who wakes up early. Rah, rah, rah. It's like, okay, no, we're gonna release that identity from ourselves. We could be the kind of person who wakes up in the morning. We could do that. I believe in my power to change. So, nighttime is highlight time. I do very much enjoy these parts of the books where they offer two kind of like conflicting tactics, I suppose. Because if you're being a morning person and doing your highlight in the nighttime, then it's like, hey, when are we sleeping? But because people are different, and because they come from, like different backgrounds, they have different situations at home, they have other things that they need to take care of or whatnot, not all tactics will work for all people, and they deal with the nuance quite well in this book. I appreciate that. So for 15, nighttime is highlight time. We're genetically predisposed to either be morning or night people. I base this not on science, but on first-hand observation of my sons conducted over the past several thousand days. Nice. So I appreciate that he gives that proviso. So we have recharge first. So when you're planning on staying up and working on a project, start by refreshing your brain with an actual break. Younger son goes to bed at 8:30, so you sit down with your wife and older son, watch part of a movie or read a few pages of a novel, so taking a proper brain break, then going offline, and then after you're done, make sure that you wind down, otherwise you won't be able to sleep. In terms of writing it in the book, though, we're just going to note down that you can make time for your highlight after most other things for the day are done. So, make time for your highlight. By, what are we saying? Like something like just doing it after, quote, the day is over. Is over. Nice. Also, just as a side note, with this talk of like, change your life, you decide your own destiny, rah rah, fight the power. I'm not trying to make this like some big Tony Robbins moment or anything like that. Okay, I'm not out here trying to push you into a point of being like uncomfortable. That's not the purpose of this. Not at all. It's more so just that I find that a lot of people don't give themselves credit for the ownership that they have on their own decisions and their own, quote, destiny. I like the idea of us being able to make changes that benefit us. And I think that especially around this time of year where we do have a lot of big goals and possibly goals that we have set for ourselves time and time again, like thinking about what hasn't worked out. Why did this not happen previously? Why is this something that I keep coming back to as something I want to do, but the actions never get taken to do the stuff, you know? And I find that a lot of it comes back to us not giving ourselves the credit for being able to do things. I know that this is kind of like fluffy, but hopefully it kind of makes sense. Anyway, nighttime is highlight time. Number 16, quit when you're done. Heck to the air. So stop before you're hella exhausted. Good idea. Which is probably why we wrote it down. So, this is effectively just telling ourselves that we should make sure that when you are trying to make time for the stuff that matters, don't let everything else in your life get you to the point of like, oh, I'm so completely exhausted that I couldn't possibly work on my highlight. So, quit when you're done. Now, notably, last time I wrote this down, I wrote it as just one line because I only had one line left. I do have more space here that I could use. So we want to put that in here. Let's see. I think it's also equally important to allow ourselves grace and understanding where we have changes in our lives that maybe we do not want but still have to endure. Yeah, exactly. I would very much agree with that too. I know that I was not my best self or my best human when we did move to New Zealand, right? Like my parents moved here because dad got his job here and rah rah rah. I did not handle that change well. Admittedly, I was 16 and my brain was underdeveloped, but still, no excuse, a little excuse. I was not a very pleasant person to be around during that time, and I don't think I handled that change well. I've come a long way since 16. I am distinctly older than that, like double that age now. So, a lot to be said about learned experiences and whatnot, but it can be tricky when there are changes that kind of like are thrown at us rather than ones that we choose to have happen. Though I will say, in those instances, it's that idea of like, you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose the way you respond. I'm not saying that we have to go and make the best of every situation because that's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. Like some situations are just crappy. It's just the way they are. But I guess after they happen, like after the fact, it gives you the opportunity to say, I'm still here. I may not have liked it, but I was able to handle it. I got through it. I can do hard things. Also, just a reminder that if you haven't had a drink in a while, you should probably have a drink. Tink. Let's see. Yeah, agree with. Some things are just crappy. That is true. Let's see. You want to get some reading done before bed? Excellent. I hope you enjoy. I've been very pleased with getting in and doing more reading this year. Mainly just because towards the end of last year, I just didn't read. And I would say, like, I don't have the time for reading. I'm like, no, you have the time for reading. You're just spending that time on something else. And that's fine. Just, take your power back. You have the opportunity to say what you're going to spend your time on, within reason, within the circumstances of what you've got going on. But, like, it's all right if something else is a priority at that time. And for me, that priority was Vlogmas. But Vlogmas is done now. So now I can spend my Vlogmas time doing some reading, which is nice. So quit when you're done. I want to go and have just a little bit of a look here so that we can see what it says before we write it down, mainly because I didn't have as much space last time. So quit when you're done. It can be hard to stop work at the end of the day just because the busy bandwagon encourages a just one more thing mentality. I feel you. Yes, that is the case. One more email, one more to do. Many people quit only when they're too exhausted to go on, and even so, they check email again before they go to bed. Thanks for calling me out. Yeah. We fall into that trap ourselves. The busy bandwagon does a great job of convincing us that Just one more thing is a responsible and hardworking thing to do, and often it seems like the only way to keep from falling behind. But it isn't. Thank you. Working till exhaustion makes us more likely to fall behind by robbing us of our rest. We need to prioritize and do our best work. Yes, we do need that. So each workday ended before people were exhausted. Week's productivity increased dramatically. Alrighty, so you will make more time for your highlight to like be able to do that if we make sure that we've got, fuel in the tank. We haven't worked ourselves to the point of ridiculous exhaustion and thus can't do our best work. Because I do like doing my best work. So in this one, we're going to say stop your work before you're too exhausted to be effective. And what I'm not saying here is like, oh, as soon as you can't give 100%, like don't do work, because we don't want that. That's an all or nothing mindset, which usually isn't very helpful, like pretty much ever. But more so, there are going to be a point where you get to the what is it like the point of no returns or something, like where the effort that you're expending on something really just doesn't have the payback. Like you'd be more useful to just stop, take a break, recuperate so that you can come back fresh. Because if you come back fresh, then you can get more stuff done in the same amount of time, which is good. We like that. I appreciate, as I said, like at the very start of this, it doesn't promote hustle culture. Like it doesn't actually want you to be constantly on the grind or like, as they say, the busy bandwagon. Like, there's always work to be done kind of a thing, especially in certain jobs where it's like, there's never a stopping point. Like there's always another thing kind of a thing. I mean, supposedly like you could just do that in general life as well. Like the never ending cycle of laundry, which is a reminder that I need to do my laundry today. Ugh. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I have been trying to. I mean, we're only like second week into the year. Been trying to this year make sure that I put my laundry away on the day that I wash it. Thus far, I am 1 for 1. So go me. We'll see if that happens today. I am hopeful. But we have the next section, of course, because number 16 was the end of Make Time for Your Highlight, which means that the next one is going to be the boss of your phone, which I definitely want to do. Now, this is in the laser section. So the first one was about the highlight, like picking that focus thing. And then the second one is more about like, how do we focus on the focus thing? So pay attention. This is our endless and proper work. Very good. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Infinity pools. Infinity pools, just for anybody who hasn't read the book, is effectively any kind of app which will constantly refresh to give you more content. So essentially pretty much any social media app that we have. That could be something like Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or, I don't know, X, bleh. Anything like that. Anything where it has like an endless scroll function. That is what those infinity pools are. And they can be very detrimental to our potential focus. And I definitely find that they are detrimental to mine. Laundry is your arch nemesis. Yeah, very, very fair. I have at least gotten my laundry to a point where I don't have to fold as many clothes because any kind of barrier. I've tried to reduce friction in the system by getting rid of the steps that I'm least likely to do. One of those is folding, so I only fold my leggings now, pretty much. But yeah, you had to quit Tumblr cold turkey. Very, very fair on that one. I've been thinking about ones that I might want to let go of. It's kind of hard when your job is literally on social media, but yeah, something I can think of. So the ones that we have here, our laser tactics, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. I didn't include 21 and 22. But I think I think I will. I've literally said through the entire of the stream, I will include it because I'm trying to make this a complete list. So try a distraction-free phone, log out, nix your notifications, clear your home screen, wear a wristwatch, and leave devices behind. This is actually something that I did recently because I don't currently have a phone plan. Long story short, my phone provider canceled my auto pay randomly, and I decided that was the final straw. Like, yeah, change your destiny, cancel your phone plan. Don't do that. I wouldn't recommend it. But because I don't leave the house very often, I haven't really missed it all that much, because I'm always on my Wi-Fi, and the majority of stuff that I do on my phone is just via the internet anyways. Uh, but because we went to a friend's house the other day, like 2 days ago, and, I brought my phone along, I'm like, "I can't do anything on this." Like, if there's a lull in the conversation, it's not like I can get it out and check any kind of app because all of the apps are online and I don't have data because I don't have a phone plan. So I'll just leave it in the car. And it was interesting how the initial leaving it in the car was kind of like, "Oh god, like, I'm gonna feel weird without my phone," and then I just didn't miss not having it on my person. Like, it didn't end up being a problem at all, to the extent where we got home and I forgot to get my phone out of the car, and it got to, 3 hours after being home, and I'm like, "Where's my phone?" Like, running around the house, I'm like, "Where did I leave it? Oh my gosh, I've lost my phone." It's just in the glove box kind of thing. Good job, me. Anyway, so our section is called "Be the Boss of Your Phone." Yeah. You should check out the dose effect. Interesting. I might have to have a look at that. Yeah. I'm trying to read comments, by the way, if I'm, like, very quiet for a second. Let's see. The reset of your phone this year, so your death scroll apps are all 3 slides over. Yeah, Rachel tried doing that. She found that it didn't work as well for her, but I totally understand the merit of it. Let's see, you gave up on Instagram, still endlessly scroll on Facebook, your nemesis is playing a game on your phone. Yeah, see, Facebook is one of those ones that I find really problematic because it's not like I even see anything from my Facebook friends on there because most of my friends don't really post on Facebook. It's fine. So a lot of it's just taken up with, like, I don't know, Lad Bible. And I'm like, I don't want to see things from Lad Bible. Like, I don't care about Lad Bible. But be the boss of your phone. Boss of your Go away. Phone. My journal's up in my business. It's okay. You're all right for now. Be the boss of your phone. So we've got 17 to 20 here, so we can keep those ones. That's nice and easy. And then we can put down the other ones. Because one of them was wear a wristwatch. I'm actually tempted to get one because, like, at the moment I have a Fitbit, which has a sad number of steps that you can't even see, which is good because they're sad. My battery in it is, like, dying, and it's not like I do that many steps, so now it just feels like a shame device sitting on my wrist being like, "Oh, you haven't stepped enough. You're gonna die early because you don't move enough." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you very much. Don't need that from you. Didn't come out to be shamed today." So based on that, I'm like, "Well, why don't we just get a different watch? One that isn't here to track your steps," given that that's not really something that it's not data I do anything with, right? Like, I love data. I love tracking data, but if I'm not doing anything with the data, then it's kind of like, what's the point? Yeah, Facebook has become all ads. I know, right? And it's just it's riddled with, like, those AI generated videos, which half the time are just so bloody creepy. It's like the ones that what's the word? The ones that are like a I'm gonna say a container. It's not a container because that makes it sound really small, but like a container, quote, quote, full of puppies, but then the puppies kind of, like, morph into ice cream or something like that. I'm like, "What are you doing? Who asked for this? Nobody wanted to see this." It's just really unsettling. And again, it's not a container. It's like a very large, I don't know, tarpaulin with sides. Okay, the AI puppies are not being treated poorly. Okay, but nobody asked for this. Why do we have this? Or just a bunch of, like, AI generated images of celebrities, like, hanging out together who are people who don't really hang out together, but then the eyes are completely, like, cartoonish, so you know that it's not real, but it's just just But be the boss of your own phone. We don't write down the header with black, we write it down with blue. So this one is try a distraction-free phone. Try a Distraction free phone. I think that this section in particular is going to be one that is most helpful for me, at least in this early part of the year, because I find that my tendency, like my morning routine, previously, you're breaking that identity box. My previous morning routine, which I am now trying to change, would be wake up, roll over, open my phone, check all of my apps. So I would check my Discord, I would check Instagram, I would check YouTube, I would check my email. Like that would be the main ones. If Facebook has a notification badge, I'll check that as well, but it's usually something pointless. But then what would happen is that I would effectively be building my to-do list from all of the priorities that other people had put on me. And that's not to say they're not things that I want to work on at some point, but I want to be the person who sets my priorities for the day. You know, if you're working for yourself, supposedly one of the priorities is picking your own schedule. So why am I not utilizing that more? This is something that I've kind of been thinking about more recently. Is like, you say that you have flexibility in your schedule and that you can pick your work hours and all of that, but how often do you actually utilize that as a function? Like, so in following with that, this idea of checking my phone first thing in the morning has become a real problem for not taking ownership of how I spend my time. So I want to be a little bit more intentional about waking up in the morning, not checking my phone, writing my to-do list for the day first, and then going and checking all of my notifications, all of that kind of thing. Yeah. Let's see. When you use the digital well-being in your settings, is that a thing? Is there a setting in our phone called digital well-being? Now I want to go and snoop. I don't know what type of phone you have though, so this might be completely not relevant for my phone. But now I'm want to go have a look. Well, it didn't come up with anything, so maybe it's not for my kind of phone, or maybe haven't updated it. But yeah, your brain has a genius hack for priority problems. Just put everything in the urgent now category. Yeah. Well, been looking so far and trying to go to bed now. Just want to say hi and share a tip on laundry. Spoiler alert, yes, it's only valid if spending too much time at home. Oh, I want to know about this. I want to know about the laundry tip. You tell me. Try a distraction-free phone. So remove Infinity Pool's apps from your phone. So remove. I'm going to write time sucking because it makes a little more sense in my brain. Apps from your phone. The idea with this is that you can still access those through the web browser, but it's not as user-friendly, so it provides friction, which gives you the opportunity to say, like, do I actually want to be on this app? And that's something that Vogel's done. He's removed Facebook from his phone because he was finding he was just like scrolling it aimlessly and stuff as well. But now because he has to go into the web browser and log in, he's less likely to go on Facebook. To the extent where he's actually very frustrating because I'll be like, "Oh, did you see the invite event from XYZ?" And he's like, "No, where was it?" I'm like, "Oh, it was on Facebook. Of course you didn't see it." Yeah, one of the things that has held me back from straight out just being like, "Yeah, I'm going to delete my Facebook," is events. Because oftentimes, if people have events, they will organize them through Facebook. So at least it's somewhere to find those events. But another thing is also the fact that I have a social media presence on Facebook, and you kind of need an account to be able to use that. Frustrating. 18 is log out. This is another one that can be very useful because if you're not automatically logged in, you have that like moment of friction, right? Is that idea of not being able to just directly open an app and start scrolling right away. When you open it, you're greeted with the login screen. You're like, oh, gives you a moment to pause and be like, do I actually want to open this or did I open this just based on default? That's what Facebook became for me because what I had in my bookmarks bar on my computer, the very first thing was Facebook. So I would just automatically hit it out of habit. I ended up switching it out for a 20-minute timer. So I was like, oh, look, now you can do a Pomodoro or something like that. But even just by having Facebook on that bar, I found that I would still constantly hit it. So I ended up removing it. And it's not to say that I can't get there. I literally type F into the URL bar and it comes up first because it remembers what you go to most commonly. But at least it's just a little bit of a barrier. But log out. So Put a check email block on your calendar. Wait, I've read like way too far over. I'm supposed to be reading here. I'm reading over there. Let's come back over here. Add friction. So, add friction by logging out of your time-sucking apps. Because the ones that do suck my time are infinity pools, but I use time suck as a term more than I use infinity pool. So given that this is for me in my journal, I'll use terminology that I actually use. Add friction by logging out of your time-sucking apps. And then our next one is nix notifications. Turn off notifications for your noisy apps. I turn off. I don't really have noisy notifications. I have the notification, what's it called? Like a, here, I can show you. Like this guy, like the button, not button. Is it a button? Whatever, the little red icon that has a number in it. I'm tempted to turn those off because if I see those, I will constantly go back and open those apps, even if it's one that I'm intentionally leaving there. Because sometimes if I don't have the time to respond to an Instagram message, for instance, I will intentionally not check the Instagram message so that it continues to notify me that there is a message there I need to respond to, which then works in reverse because I keep on opening up the app being like, oh, there's a notification. It's like, oh no, that's the one that you have intentionally left there. So yeah, it works really well. Anyways, turn off noisy notifications. There we go. For noisy apps. Noisy apps. We have space to write applications, so I'm going to write applications. Yeah. Didn't know you could turn those off. Yeah, no, you can. Because you can, when you go into your notification settings, I'll see if I can find one that I can show you without it being like, I don't know, escandalo. Not that there's anything particularly escandalo in the settings feature, but when you go to notifications, you can then go into the app itself. I'm going to see if I can find Instagram. There we go. So when you go into notifications, like the notifications banner on the main menu, you can just turn badges off. I've also turned off sounds because I don't like my phone making noise at me ever. But yeah, you can turn those off. You can also turn off whether you want to have banners or anything like that. Because I get so many Instagram notifications, I have turned off banners. I've also gone into the app and turned off anything I could in there, like for not necessarily Instagram, but for other applications, you can turn off specific ones and whatnot. But I just don't like my phone making noise at me in general. I don't like my phone going ping ping or like bzz, bzz, or anything like that if it's not a message or a call. And specifically a message either by text, like text messages, SMS, or via Messenger, because those are the two kind of main messaging services that I use. I also obviously get messages through Instagram, but because so many people message me on there, which is it's very first world problem. Oh, people message you, how awful. I can't have those on because my phone would just be bzzing all the time and I wouldn't be able to deal with it. Or when I first set up my Instagram, I had notifications on for any time somebody liked a post. Not anymore. No. That would be way too distracting because the idea is making time for the things that matter to you and getting rid of the things that are trying to steal your focus, attention, and thus time and energy. So, next notifications. Put that one down here. Looking very sweet. First thing you do with a new phone is turn off all of the sounds. Yeah, I constantly have my phone on silent mode. But then I also found that the default vibration patterns for the phone were too short. Like that there wasn't sufficient vibration for me to actually notice it. So in iPhone, you can actually set your own vibration patterns, which is quite cool. So I went and set one that's just like on repeat for as long as it would let me have, so that then I could make sure that I actually notice it. Because sometimes, I wear pretty loose fitting pants kind of a thing. If my phone isn't directly on, like against my leg because of the way I'm sitting or whatever, I won't have um I won't have the sensation to actually feel that it's going off if it's not something that is repeated and sustained for a longer period of time. So, just helped me out. So, number 19 was Nick's notifications. Number 20 is clear your home screen. Yep. The blanket that the cat has peed on has been moved to the dryer. That is good. After it was in the washer. Nice. And then the clothes are in the washer now. Yeah, I try to do all of my laundry on the same day because then it's just, like batching the task together. Which means that I only have to do 2 loads today, so that's not too bad. I also don't do Vogel's laundry. Like he's in charge of his own laundry. Mainly because all of my clothes are black, so they all go in together, and his are like colored and white and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, you can go do your own separate loads. That's fine. Clear your home screen. Nice. So this one we said was number 20. Vogel is a saint. I mean, okay, admittedly, I did offer to do his laundry for him. He said no. So I was like, that's fine. I mean, he also knows that I'm the kind of person who doesn't really like to hang things on the clothes horse or on the clothesline. I have a kind of like survival of the fittest type deal with my clothes, in that, like, if I chuck you in the dryer and you shrink, it wasn't meant to be. Like, there we go. So we have clear your home screen, which is effectively just removing all apps from the first screen you see. I probably won't be doing this. I mean, you literally just saw my home screen before. It's packed, but that's because I like to try and keep everything I have on one screen wherever possible. I should probably go through my phone and remove some things. So, remove all apps from. Okay, I'm just checking this because if I make this one smaller, then I'll be able to fit one in underneath it, but I don't know what the next one is. So, because I could probably fit the word home screen in here. Let's go check. So the next one that we had was wearing a wristwatch. And if we scrolling down the book. So wear a wristwatch is effectively just like buy a wristwatch. That's not too hard. But it's more so just to like take notifications off of your wrist. Because if you have the kind of watch that allows you to see those, then it's just another opportunity to get distracted by things. So I probably won't need a lot of space to write that one, so it should be okay. Yeah, completely understand the aversion to laundry. Touching cold, wet textiles is a big nah. Fair. So remove all apps from your home screen. Probably could have fit that in better. It's more so just like, how much writing do I want for buy a wristwatch? But we're putting it in. We're putting it in. There we go. That's fine. This is going to be the first one that I think, in terms of where the dots are placed, the first one where the dots are kind of closer together. I don't think it'll bother me too much because when we start to get into other ones, some of those just take up more space. But number 21 was wear a wristwatch. Wear a wristwatch. Now I'm already thinking that I might need to include some kind of a tip in here, because we have done 1 through 20, which over here was a column and a block, and we've gotten to almost 2 full columns. So given the other ones that I have and the extra space that I had in the last version of this layout, might need a little more space, but it's all right. So 21, yeah. Remove what I'm going to call wrist notifications. remove wrist notifications by getting what I'm going to call a dumb watch, which is effectively a smartwatch that can't do very much. A dumb watch. No, it's just a regular watch rather than a smart watch or like a smart device. So we have that one there. Then the next one we have was number 22. Now, originally I didn't include my outline the whole way across this page because I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe I'll turn this into a Dutch door or something like that. I still think I might do that. So I'm going to leave that for now. I just need to make sure that I have my pencil guides in so that I don't take up too much space. So each of these columns is 6 centimeters across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can put in that. We can put in the column for the next one. We also wanted to have some going down the page. And we will also need that one over here. Just so I have some guidelines. I don't go and write in spaces that I shouldn't be writing in. Yeah, you want lots and lots of things that you need to split and do laundry and temperature control. Like, oh gosh, yeah, nah. I prefer to wash all of my clothes on the 30-degree Celsius setting. I prefer them all to go in one load, and I prefer to throw them all into the dryer. And if they do not survive, then they were not meant for my closet. It is an interesting stance to take because I know that some people do prefer to wear more than just one kind of color of clothes. I'm not that person. I just wear the one color. Which is this an identity box I want to break out of? No, not really. I'm okay with it right now. Hi Kelly. Such a pleasure to have you here, even if only for a second. Thank you for popping in. So, our next one is because number 21 was wearing a wristwatch. Number 22 is leave devices behind, which is scary, especially if you're thinking about it over the long term. I don't do this over the long term, but doing it once or twice, it's fine. So twice a week, our friend Chris leaves his laptop and phone at the office and goes home device free. Runs a busy consulting agency. But those 2 evenings, he can't check email. He can't even text till he goes to work the next day. He's cut off. Yeah, definitely inconvenient, but the temporary isolation is made up for by improved focus and sleep. Well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, on those nights he falls asleep earlier and sleeps more evenly, rarely wakes up in the middle of the night. Oh, that's really nice. So it could be a helpful tactic. Again, depends on, what is going to be right for you. And that's why we have so many, so that you can pick and choose. Choose your own adventure type of a deal. I'm going to write this one in here, making sure that I put it in the right spot. So this one is number 22. Yeah, that one's the line. That's blank. That's blank. That's here. Poink. Want to make sure we put it in the right place. Leave devices behind. Now, part of the reason that I probably didn't write this one down for myself initially is that I work at home. Like, I don't really have anywhere to leave it behind. I could probably leave it in my office space, like where we are right now. But I don't have a separate office. Like, I don't go out of the home and work somewhere separately. So when I was teaching, then yes, I probably could leave my teaching related stuff at home and that would have been helpful, but it doesn't really necessarily work here. So, yeah, you're all tall, so everything gets washed in cold and fear of shrinkage. Yeah, fair. Like, you're 6 foot tall and you're the shortest one. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm the shortest one. I'm 5'3". My brother is 6'3". My dad is 6'2.5". Vogel is 5 something, but 5 taller than me. Like, not 5'3" plus 5 inches. I just don't know how much taller than me he is. I think he might be 5'10" or something, but let's see, 22. Limit your availability to your device by physical separation. Because that would be how I would be able to interpret this one. Separation. I'm sure you guys will be able to let me know if it's separation or separation, so I'm just not going to write it in just yet. Wait, you saw Vogel at the supermarket the other day. Interesting. Did you say hi? He always likes it when people say hi and he gets to feel just a little bit famous. Unless he was looking for something that I specifically requested him to get a very particular brand of, then he'd be like, Jess sent me on a fetch quest and I am frustrated about it. Which also would be a possibility. So, limit your availability to your device by physical separation. And then after this one, we have the next section, which is all about more laser tactics. So it's how to stay out of the infinity pools because they will just suck up your time. Just fully suck up your time. You were like, I know you, but you don't know me. Kind of fun. I know that when we went to Go Wild, Vogel said he never felt more famous than he did then when people came up and said like, oh, hey, are you Vogel kind of thing? Like, I've seen you on Jess's videos. And he's just like, I feel like I didn't deserve the attention, but it was kind of exciting to have it. So that's quite sweet. But alrighty, so number 23, 24, 5, 6, 7, let's see, how many of these did I actually put in my journal last time? So 23 to 33, we have 23, 24, 25 isn't here, 26, 27, 28, 29 aren't here, 30, 31, 32, and 33. So there are 5 extras that I need to include, but it's probably because they were ones that it's probably because it didn't relate to me. How many times have I said that? I feel like we should take a shot for every time I said that. And by a shot, I mean a shot of water because hydration is important. Tink. There we go. Delicious. Or at least it would be if it had any flavor. Curse you, water. So, what was this one called? Stay out of infinity pools. Stay out of infinity pools. So, okay, I know that you sent this a little while ago, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you have a work phone, so it has to come where I go. I do appreciate people who have like that kind of separation, not to the extent where I've been thinking about getting another phone just so I can put my social media apps on it. That is not what I'm saying, but I do like the idea of having that very distinct separation between this is my phone that's just for work, this is my phone that's for my personal life. I think that kind of separation can be very helpful for people. So stay out of infinity pools. The first thing is skip the morning check-in, and this is something that I have been actively trying to do over the past week. Have I been successful? If I'm conscious about it, yes. But sometimes if my brain hasn't woken up fully, I will just kind of accidentally do it. And then I'll realize like, oh no, I was supposed to write my daily log before I did this. And yeah, it is what it is. So skip the morning check-in. Nice. You can get water drops. Yeah, I did get some. And I initially liked them, but I found that they made me so much more thirsty, which I know sounds silly because it's like, oh, well, if you feel more thirsty, you'll drink more water, yada, yada. But it meant that when I was drinking the water, I didn't ever feel refreshed. Like I didn't, you know, when your throat's dry and you have a drink of water and you're like, oh, thank the Lord, I've like actually been able to hydrate myself properly. I found that by drinking the water drop water, I never got that feeling of being refreshed, which meant that I was like, I never had the satisfaction of having drunk it. If that kind of makes sense. That frustrated me. So I've changed to just regular water. I'm not absolutely hating it. I know I complain a lot about like water. I don't actually hate water. Not really. It's just not my default. It's not my preference to drink. If I'm gonna have a drink, it's not my preference. I will usually have something else. Yeah, I think it was like there was a slight aftertaste, which wasn't like too bad, but the thing was more like the after feeling. It's the same reason why I don't drink straight Coke is first of all, I don't probably need that much sugar. I probably don't. My doctor would say I probably don't need. But the thing that would actually bother me the most is the way my teeth would feel afterwards, because my teeth would feel woody, and that sounds weird, but they would feel like they were made of wood, and it was just such an ick feeling in my mouth that I was like, I can't do that. But Coke Zero or Coke No Sugar doesn't seem to give me that same mouth feeling, so it's interesting. So we've got number 23. Skip the morning check-in. Here I wrote, don't make checking infinity pools your first daily task. Yep, thank you for reminding me, past Jess. Don't make checking. And again, I'm going to call these time suck. Your first task of the day. Done. That's number 23. We're writing that down. Looks really good. Yeah, you get the same feeling after drinking normal Coke. Yeah, it's just quite interesting how, obviously people have differences in terms of their preference for flavors, but then also the feeling of foods can be something that is very hit or miss for people as well. Like, I don't really like the feeling of biting through a hard cheese, especially if it's a thick, hard cheese. That will make my teeth feel. I don't like it. Yuck. It gives me the same feeling that other people will probably have from like two pieces of styrofoam rubbing against each other. So like that is part of what I don't like about eating cheese. If the cheese is melted, like if the cheese is melted in a fondue or on nachos or a burger, heck to the air. Sign me up. Sounds great. But if it's just like a straight cold block of cheese that you bite through and it's not a soft cheese, it's a hard cheese. Now I'm thinking about it. I hate it. Ugh. No, thank you. 24. So, yeah, you only drink or crave regular Coke after a long run. In terms of like drink cravings, the one that I would say that I most often kind of crave would be orange juice, which is strange. I think it's probably something about the flavor, and it's not super often, but every so often I'm just like, oh, could really go for like a cold orange juice from More Wilson's. Like that would be the bomb.com right now. Like so good. You're not officially diagnosed, but your therapist has hinted a few times of possibly me being on the autism spectrum, and feeling of things is so huge for me. Yeah, I can understand that one being a kind of like a is the word a symptom? I don't know. An occurrence that commonly presents in people with autism. That idea of like the tactile feeling of things and it being like gives people the ick. The heebie-jeebies, not going to do it. So 24, block, distraction, kryptonite. Block, distraction, kryptonite. Is that what it's... Yeah, okay, sure. Block, distraction, kryptonite. Can I spell kryptonite? Absolutely not. Ton. Wait. Gorge. Yeah, there's some places do also have really bad tasting water. We went out for dinner, or lunch or whatnot. We went out for lunch a while ago, like July last year, to a place where we got water with our meal. You sit down, tap or sparkling, tap water, it'll be fine. They brought it out. Or actually, I think we had to get it ourselves, so that was another thing that was an issue. But it tasted like plastic because I think the containers they had stored it in had been plastic containers. So I'm not saying that the plastic like leached into the water or anything like that, but it did kind of take on a plasticky taste and it was really feral. It was really not pleasant. There were other things about that meal experience that were also not pleasant, but that was definitely one of the things that came to mind is drinking the water and just being like, oh, brother, what's that? It was not good. Would not recommend, which is a shame because that has been a place that like when we go to that area, which is like a place away from our home. It's called Masterton. We'd go there and we'd commonly go to that place for food because we did enjoy their food. But the last experience we had there is like, okay, do we bother going back again? Like, was a no from me. So, oh well. In terms of blocking distraction kryptonite, I said block apps that are a particular area of weakness for you. Hi, Tracy. 2025 is going fairly well so far. I hope your 2025 is going well as well. So, block apps. Block apps that are particular areas of weakness for you. Weakness for you. So I would love to know what apps do you find to be the big, like the heavy hitters, the ones that are like they suck up your time, they suck up your attention. You usually kind of like, oh, I'm gonna scroll for 5 minutes, and then you're like, oh look, an hour has passed, or like maybe only 30 minutes, but still. They're the ones that you find you do suffer from aimless scrolling and it doesn't necessarily fill your cup in a positive way. I think that for me, the biggest one is probably Facebook because anytime I'm scrolling on there, I'm not even really looking at the posts. It's just pointless dribble a lot of the time because it's not the stuff that's from my friends. The only things that I actually like seeing on Facebook of the things that I see are probably stuff that's in groups that I'm following, but they also don't come up often enough. See, because it's interesting because in terms of the two biggest apps that I find myself scrolling, it's going to be Facebook and Instagram. But at least Instagram is fun. Like, at least on Instagram, the algorithm is algorithming. It's showing me stuff that I actually give half a toss about, kind of a thing. And usually it's like memes and just funny things, and occasionally journal content, but usually memes. But it's stuff that I can then share with my friends, and that feels more like the actual like social media app because it's about me and my friends sharing little memes like pebbling like penguins do, like, oh, I found this fun little thing for you, here, let me give you that thing. Whereas Facebook, it's just pointless. Like, it's just lad bible and random like 5 minute crafts that aren't even 5 minutes or require a hand drill and cement, and I'm like, nobody asked for this. But I don't know, it's just not great. Instagram keeps telling me you've seen all the posts and gives me ads for accounts you don't follow. I find that when I go to Instagram, what I prefer to do, if we just go over here, you hit the Instagram button and then you can go to following, and then it shows you things from people that you actually follow so that you can just see posts from people you're actually subscribed to. So I find that that's quite helpful. I don't often do it because usually when I'm on Instagram, it's not really to see, this sounds so bad, it's not to see the posts from people I follow, it's to message my friends. Like, we message a lot through Instagram and send each other memes and stuff like that. So, shrug. Yours disappeared. That's rude. I found that the drop down of it was gone, but I could still hit the Instagram button. Like, there's nothing here to suggest that it's there, but if I press on Instagram, it'll then show up. Like, you see how the little arrow shows up after I hit it? So maybe shrug? I don't know. I don't know if that helps, but hopefully it helps. But what do we have? Yeah, we've got TikTok, and that's why you took it off your phone. Very fair. Instagram and YouTube. Yeah, I find that I'm sad to say that YouTube is coming up for a couple of people. I know that was for Vogel. Vogel had a real problem with YouTube, and it just sucking up all of his time. He went on a huge unsubscribe kind of mission, got rid of a whole bunch of people, and that kind of helped it a little bit for him. Kind of reset his algorithm a little bit. Also, if you go to your homepage on YouTube and you tell it, like, anything that comes up that you're like, "Actually, I don't wanna consume that kinda content anymore," just tell YouTube explicitly you don't wanna see it. There's, like, a 3 dots menu or something, you can press on it and say, like, "Don't show me this," or, like, "Not interested, don't recommend," or whatever, and it learns pretty quickly because they want you to stay on, you know? They want you to see things that you wanna see and thus stay on the app. So they'll stop showing them to you very, very quickly. But you don't scroll on Facebook anymore. You have the groups pinned and my friends are in the chat list. That's a smart way to do it. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Glowchan. We will see you next time. But yeah, you do have 2 separate channels for YouTube. That makes it a little bit easy as well to, like, you can build separate algorithms for separate ones as well, which is kinda nice. I technically have multiple channels, and I just watch everything through this one, so it's all of a bit of a mishmash of stuff, but number 25 I don't have on here because I didn't put it in, but that one was ignore the news, and that's probably why I didn't put it in because I already ignore the news. So I'm not too sure what the actual kind of recommendation here is, but so number 25, ignore the news. Whole concept of breaking news runs on a very potent myth. You need to know what's going on around the world, and you need to know now. Smart people follow the news. Responsible people follow the news. Grown-ups follow the news, don't they? I mean, supposedly I'm a smart, responsible grown-up. Big theories there. I don't keep up with the news, mainly because it's always just so sad and like. I have enough things in my life to be sad about without adding on current sad breaking news, you know? The parts of the news that I actually give a toss about are the weather. Like, that's the part I care about, and nowadays, as I don't really leave the house as much, I give less of a toss about the weather. I still like the weather, though. It is of an interest point to me, but still. Yeah. As it says, not saying you have to cut yourself off completely. Instead, we suggest reading the weekly news. Alrighty. Anything less frequent is likely to make you feel like you're lost at sea. Uh, that makes sense. That yeah, we don't want to feel caught up in a tumultuous churn of the daily news because oftentimes it's just not super fun, not super relevant to like the long term projects of life. Notably, there are some things that happen like in an instant that do have a bit of a kind of like sway or a say, but I kind of work on the assumption that anything that needs to find me will. There's probably a good chunk of it that doesn't, but I'm just hoping, you know, putting that out there that anything that needs to find me, news related, is gonna find me. Oh yeah, there are channels on the YouTube. Wow. Okay, there are channels on the YouTube that focus on the positive news. I know you didn't say that. I said that. I just can't read. But yeah, I think that those positive news, kind of like I know it starts with a C. I'm gonna say collection. That's not what I mean, but we're collation. There we go. The collating of positive news together can be really nice because it means that you can still take in news, but you don't have to have all of the super sad negative stuff, which like it's one of those things that yes, there is a purpose to knowing what's going on in the world. And it's good to be aware and it's good to be like informed and kept up to date. Yeah. But there are some things that I just can't change. So with to the extent of like I can feel bad and I can feel sad for those people and I can like, you know, my heart pours out to them and stuff like that. But because there's nothing that I can tangibly do from where I'm at, do I need to then bring those negative emotions into my life? And I think that this is a very personal decision. Like, you know, if that's important to you, if it's important for you to know and be kept informed, go for it. But because we all have so much in our lives already, like we can focus on our own tasks possibly. Like, yes, be mindful of others, be kind of sympathetic, empathetic towards their causes, their sufferings and whatnot, but don't let it get you into a point where like you can't focus on your own stuff because you're taking on the burdens of other people. Does that kind of make sense? Or at least that's the kind of like part of the reason why I don't watch the news. So, the actual purpose of this point though, what is this point called? This point is called ignore the news. Ignore the news. And I probably, in part, left this off from my list because it would end up just being a cop out. Like, because I don't consume the news as much as other people do, if I put it on this tactic menu, it'd be like, okay, the tactic I'm gonna pick today is ignore the news. I'm like, yeah, but you're gonna do that by default, so it's not really like a choice to do it because it's just the default setting here. But 25. We'll put that one. So we are going to just put down the idea of change from daily news consumption to weekly news. Which I think is probably actually a pretty good idea. Because then you're going to be, you get the highlights of the week, the ones that are actually kind of the standouts, the ones that have more staying power in terms of like their relevance, I suppose. So that kind of makes sense to me. I'm still probably not going to consume the news, but it's something that I could think about. So number 26, put your toys away. This is also another one that I'm not good at. And by this, we don't mean like actual toys. We mean, because we're thinking about, be the boss of your phone here and like stay out of infinity pools. It's just closing tabs and browsers that you've been keeping open. So put your toys away. This one has said, over here it just says, close tabs and apps at the end of each day. I think that would be a good routine habit to get into. 26. Close your tabs. And I think this is also something that could be good for my computer as well as my phone. Apps at the end of each day. Now, I personally find this one difficult because a lot of the time I finish my day of work or whatnot, or whatever I'm doing in the day, and there's stuff that's still ongoing. There's stuff that I want to come back to, and I don't really want to have to reopen it the next day. But that is not necessarily this, right? This is the infinity pools. So one of the ones that I have a problem with is that I'll open up a browser window to watch a YouTube video, and then I'll get halfway through watching it, so I won't want to close it because I want to finish watching it. But then at some point later, I will just by kind of default open up a new browser tab and be like, oh, look, a video, and I'll like start watching that video. So now I have 2 YouTube tabs open with 2 half-finished videos. I should probably get better at just, should get better. Okay, we're gonna put that aside. I don't like shoulds. They're not good for us, but it would be nice to be a little bit better about finishing out any one video I'm watching before I go and add another one. What is this one tab Chrome extension for saving tabs? Interesting. I haven't heard of it. I oftentimes, if I have a bunch of tabs that I am using for like a research project or something like that, I think it's like you right click and you can bookmark all tabs at once that are open on one thing. Like one browser window or whatnot. You can do that, but okay, are you me? Lol. But yeah, I do find this one tricky. I also find it tricky to turn off my computer at the end of the day, which is something that I should probably do for my computer more. It probably would like that. It would appreciate if it was allowed some rest time. No rest time, kind of a thing. Yeah. So because I'm not really that great at, I don't necessarily get to the end of the day and have a project completely finished, and I want to be able to just pick it up the next day. I don't close my computer down as often as I probably should, but shoulds. Use it for your dissertation. It's really good. All your tabs from back then are still in one tab. Nice. It's the saving tab. Interesting idea. So, number 27. I don't have number 27 written down, so we need to go find 27. Number 27 is fly without Wi-Fi. I think I probably didn't write this down because I just don't, uh, I don't fly very often. But this one is just about, using your Wi-Fi time as a time to be distraction-free from your devices and such. The watch later option is great. I love the watch later option. I also love the fact that at least on the phone version of YouTube, you can remove the ones you've already watched. That one's very helpful, so you don't have to go and like either go sort them out manually yourself or remember to remove them from your watch later. Once you've finished watching them, you can just hit a button and it does it all for you, which is quite convenient. So this one was fly without Wi-Fi. Without, I can't spell that. Witto. Do we fix it? Yeah, we'll fix that one. Only because it's in blue. If it was in black, nah, whatever, I don't care. But it's in blue, so we'll fix it. So, for this purpose, we will need our surgical instruments, also known as a piece of sticker paper, like an offcut from my sticker paper. We'll also probably need a scalpel, okay, a craft knife. Put that there very gently. That was very aggressive, ma'am. Calm down. Calm down. But we're just going to lay the sticker paper over the top of the mistake and then use the craft knife to cut that to size. We don't want to have a bunch of excess. Yeah. Ta-da! It's like it didn't even happen. Perfection. I'm not usually too precious with this kind of stuff. It's more so just because it's a header. Like, it's a header for a very small section, but I'd still like it to say the right thing. So, without Wi-Fi. Oh, much better. Much better. Notice that they push them out more when people add them to their watch later or saved list. Oh, nice. That's cool too. Adding your favorite channels and videos to that is so good for the channels. Oh, really? I wasn't sure. I was not aware that that was a thing. Let's see. Yeah, this is why you only drink out of stainless steel glasses. I assume that's a throwback to the plastic water thing, because that was bad. Also, talking about water, remember, hydration is important. Tink. Good job, hydration. Good job. Coming back to that idea of identities or whatnot, maybe I'm the kind of person who drinks water. Like, I know that sounds like a really silly identity to put myself in. Like, do we need to kind of give that as a label for ourselves? But as I previously hasn't been the person kind of who would drink water, I'm now the person who drinks water. So, fly without Wi-Fi. Give yourself a break from time suck apps. By not connecting to the Wi-Fi. Excellent. So that was 27. We also have 28. Notice you forgot the U in gratitude last month in a header and just let it roll. Yeah, I have a layout from, I want to say 2023. I want to say April of 2023, where I forgot the H in monthly. So it just says monthly. I'm like, yep, that's what it is. My monthly. I think it was a reflection page or something. I think that, getting to a point where you can just roll with having an error like that, it feels like an accomplishment, especially because I know so many of us are very precious with our journals. Don't worry, I am still precious. I am the persnicketiest of the persnickety biscuits. Probably not. There are probably more persnickety people than I, but getting to a point where you can be okay with having little errors or imperfections and stuff like that in your journal, it does feel like a big win. And I think that that's awesome. For instance, in my January setup, I noticed the other day that there is a smudge in my lettering that I know when I first started, I would be devastato. I would be like, "Oh my god, this page is ruined. I need to fix it. I need to cover it. I need to do something." I would never probably stick the pages together. I don't do that very often, but I would have found something to cover it up with because it would have upset me. Nowadays, I was just like, "Ah, that's a bother. Flips page." It's fine. Um, it's not right, but it's okay. So, number 28 though is put a timer on the internet. I am not going to do this, but I can see the merits of it for people who need it, kind of a thing. Mainly because if I did this, Vogel would have a complete nut a go at me. But for this one, I think the idea is that you would literally put a kind of electrical timer that only allows it to be on for so long on your internet router. As you can see by the picture here, it is not probably what I'm going to be doing, but it is something that you could do. So put a timer on the internet. Also, just a reminder, because we've been here for a second with each other. If you want to read this book with me, if you want to read this book with me and other people in our community, there's a link in the description box. Come join us. We're buddy reading this book. I said, I love this book. It's a great book. There are plenty more tactics that we haven't covered yet. But putting a timer on the internet, ridiculous. I don't know. Is there ways to do this just via your browser? Probably. The internet doesn't have to be on all the time. Get into laser mode, turn the internet off. The simplest method is just switching the Wi-Fi off on your laptop, putting your phone in airplane mode. So we're going to set times and use restrictions. We're going to call it restriction features, because you don't have to actually turn it off at the source. To give yourself, I'm going to write net free. Probably could have fit internet, but I was feeling worried. So yeah, you can use, obviously, like there's the ability to just turn the Wi-Fi off on your computer. You can just go into your settings, turn the Wi-Fi off there, nice and easy. There are probably also extensions that you can get that will block you out of certain things on your browser, which is quite helpful. I've used that previously. The one that I used to use was Stay Focused, all one word, no E in focused. And you could set specific apps that you either wanted to only have a certain amount of time that you could use them throughout the day, or you could, what was called the nuclear option, which was saying, hey, for the next hour or 2 hours or whatever, I don't want to be able to access these apps. Boom. And then it wouldn't let you access them, which was quite nice. But there are also obviously options for your phone and whatnot. I think that I haven't used any myself, so there's none that I can specifically recommend, but there are definitely applications you can add to your phone to stop you from accessing things and whatnot. But the next one, which again, there's a good reason I didn't include it, but it's cancel the internet. Like literally just get rid of it kind of a thing. I'm not gonna do that. My job is online. That would be silly. But for the sake of completeness, we're gonna add it in. There is obviously a reason I didn't include this, but cancel the internet. Boom. And that one is number 29. So for this one, I don't even know what to say, because I'm just not going to do it. But the idea was that they had a reader write in and give them an extreme tactic for getting into the laser mode, which was just to not have an internet service at all. Get rid of your internet service provider which for some people is probably viable. Like my grandparents, I don't know if they still don't have internet, but for as long as I was talking to them, they didn't have internet. Uh, I can understand that, like, as people who are not they don't have, like, a computer, really. They eventually got a secondhand laptop to play solitaire and do their budget or something like that, but they don't really do anything online. Sure, that's fine. For somebody who lives online, no, not gonna happen. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do that. Aisha, but your dad has never had internet. Yeah, I think it's also the thing. It's like if that is your default, if not having the internet has always been the way for you, I feel like it's obviously going to be a lot easier. I think we can say that for most things. Like if that is your kind of like factory default factory settings, then yeah, fair. But for people who use the internet quite a lot, then this is like the nuclear approach. It's a little bit too aggressive for me personally. So, doing the next one, we have 30, which I actually quite like this one. Watch out for time craters. Craters, like a meteor impact crater. So, a time crater is effectively a very small task that you do, which doesn't really take that long, but it ends up taking up a lot more time in the long run because it just like is something that you're going to kind of continually be bringing your focus or attention back to. So the example that they use in the book is around sending tweets because they're the kind of people who send tweets. It's not my kind of thing. So they send a tweet over the next hour or 2 hours or whatnot. They continue to come back to the tweet to see how the tweet is doing. Like, oh, does it have any likes? Does it have any responses? Should I respond to those? Da, 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 da. So it ends up kind of like this 90-second to 2-minute thing that he did ends up taking up like half an hour of his time in the day because it's a time crater. Very small thing, but very big impact. I love that. Waking up to no internet is a sign of the apocalypse. Yeah, I would not be having a good day if I woke up to no internet. Mm-mm. Make sure to have your water. Yeah. Tink. So, watching out for time craters. I wrote quite a lot about this one last time. Yeah, avoid small tasks that end up sucking up much larger periods of time in your day. I'm going to see if I can write this smaller because it'd be nice to fit that in. But avoid small tasks that eat up much larger periods of time. Of time. Very good. So, this is a good question. So, in this section, we're specifically thinking about like infinity pools, but I guess technically speaking, that could also be something related. Hmm. What's the first word under 30? Avoid. It's a little bit messy. The O isn't quite joined over. But yes, avoid small tasks that eat up much larger periods of time. So I guess in that, like with that blurb, the idea of something that takes you thought would take 5 minutes, but ends up taking 2 hours, like technically could be a time crater. But in this one, we're thinking about those ones that the initial task actually isn't very long at all. So, like in the example, was that idea of like sending a tweet or whatever. So that first thing, very small, very very quick to accomplish, but because of the like maintenance that goes with it after the fact, or what behaviors it promotes afterwards, those end up taking a lot more time. If that kind of makes sense. For number 31, Poink. So this one is trade fake wins for real wins. Trade fake wins for real wins. I'm kind of hoping that I could fit all of them in the bottom here, but I don't think I'm going to because it's 31, 32, and 33. I just didn't put 33 on this list, so I can be a little bit more lax in the amount of space I'm spending here because, like, 1, 2. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to. So we can take up a little extra space with this, and that's fine. So trading fake wins for real wins is remember that your highlight is the priority, not Insta updates. That is probably specifically targeted to me. But as said, we're trying to make sure that the things I'm writing in this journal are going to be relevant to me because it's my journal. So if you are writing this down for yourself, make sure that you write it in a context or a way that is going to make sense to future you or like is actually relevant to your situation, if that makes sense. Hi, Terry. The first year that you journal, that's very exciting. So 31. Trade fake wins for real wins. What do we say? Remember. Do you remember? Remember that your highlight is the priority. Not superficial busy work. So one of the examples that they gave was the idea of like, updating a spreadsheet is a fake win if it helps you procrastinate on the harder, more meaningful project. So while I initially gave myself the example of like an Instagram update because it is kind of in relation to my work, makes sense. There are other things that I do that are just kind of like fake wins, like, oh yeah, I'll just go update this spreadsheet, or I'll go and put, I don't know, I can't even think of an example because they are so common, which means, of course, my brain's like, you can't bring just one to mind. But you guys know what we mean, right? Those things that they are small and they kind of feel productive, but they're not actually moving the needle with where you want to go with things. So, for instance, if I have a list of meals, for instance, I'm like, these are healthy meals that my family wants to eat more of because nutrition is important, blah, blah, blah. With that, I could go and spend time like organizing them into different categories based on like, oh, these are the chicken ones, these are the beef ones, these are the quick meals, rah, rah, rah. Or I could pick one and go meal prep it for the week. Like, they could possibly take the same amount of time, but one of them is actually going to move the needle in terms of getting me to eat the nutritious food, kind of a thing. So, anyway, number 32, turn distractions into tools. Turn distractions into tools. Now, notably, when I wrote this down last time, I wrote just a very small blurb, which I will be, again, writing a very small blurb, but that blurb doesn't necessarily tell me exactly what this is about, so we are going to consult the book. That one being number 32, turn distractions into tools. Infinity pools like Facebook, Twitter, email, and the news are distractions, but that doesn't mean they aren't without value, or they are without value, I suppose. I can read. So start by identifying why you use a particular app, how much time do you want to spend on that activity, consider when and how you'd like to use that app to achieve your goal. Makes sense. So, like, just because it is an infinity pool doesn't mean we can't use it for something that is related to our highlights. So, focus on each app's purpose. I'm just going to write that in because focus on why you want to use an app. Because there are still periods of time where we probably do want to use them. So it makes sense to give yourself the opportunity to reflect on that, I suppose. The next one, though, haven't written that one down, and that is number 33, become a fair weather fan. And that is because it is related to sport, and I don't follow sport, but we're going to write it down because completeness. So, number 33, become a fair weather fan. Fair weather fan. So, as said, this one was about sport, so I didn't actually end up writing it down the initial time that I put this into my journal. But I think that this is kind of a similar thing to the idea with news. We go and have a consultation. So, become a fair weather fan. How much time does it take to be a sports fan? Well, how much have you got? This day you can watch every game as your favorite team plays. You can watch the playoffs, the regular season, the preseason. You can watch as every other game every other team plays, all from the comfort of your living room. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to support your favorite people or whatnot, but it takes up a lot of time and it takes emotional energy because when your team loses, it sucks and might bum you out and then lower your energy. I personally don't follow sport, so it's not really an issue for me, but we are going to write down. So, follow your team's progress when things are going well, which seems a little bit silly when things are going well. You know, we want to support our teams even in the hard times too. We want to be a true fan kind of a thing. But is that actually benefiting us? Like when your sports team is not doing so well, when they lose the game, when they don't make the finals or whatever. Can you tell I don't watch sport? Whatever. When that happens, the emotions that we feel in that instance, the kind of like possibly even like, you know, turmoil that we feel isn't necessarily going to help our team at all, and it's not going to really help us. Like if we're thinking about this, you know, making time for what actually matters, is that helping? Is that something that is going to move the needle and take us where we want to go? Probably not. That's not to say that you have to do these, because remember, all of these tactics, it's a pick and choose. I don't watch sport, so I don't need to do that one. If you do watch sport, though, and you find that your enjoyment of sport is taking up more time than you want it to, maybe then that's something that can help you. All that said, though, this is not finished, but for today we are, because I need to go and have some morning tea. I'm getting a little bit peckish. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed these ideas, make sure to go and check out the book. Come and join us over in our Discord. I would love to read this with you. We can chat about these tactics, try them out, and see which ones kind of work for us as a collective. If you wanted to see the setup of this journal, though, then that video is going to be on screen here. Otherwise, have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will catch you next time. Bye for now.